Chapter 1780. That clan, Heavenly Grotto Mystic Realm. Between the heavens and earth, there was a deathly silence. All the cultivators of that clan revealed looks of despair. The patriarch had perished. Moreover, he had truly perished. There was no way to revive him. There was no need to explain what this meant. The end of that clan had arrived. But why was it like this? Everything was clearly fine. Before the patriarch left for the monster race, the situation had been under control. Chinyu! It's Chinyu! An elder suddenly roared, his face fierce. It's him! It's all because of him! Another elder screamed. That's right. Everything happened after he arrived. It must be Chinyu who harmed the patriarch. Everyone of that clan, listen up. Chinyu is our clan's life or death enemy. In the future, we must kill him at all costs to avenge the patriarch and bring justice to our clan. Nyo Daodu is at Azure Dragon Mountain. If you kill her, Nyo Dingtian will absolutely not let this matter rest. Kill Nyo Daodu and borrow Nyo Dingtian's hand to eliminate Chinyu. Despair and fear filled the hearts of the people of that clan. Endless killing intent and anger rose within them. Let's go. Whoosh, whoosh. With the sound of breaking air, the cultivators of that clan shot into the skies. Soon, they arrived at the small courtyard where Chinyu lived. The pale-faced 327 was standing in the courtyard in a daze. As it looked up, it couldn't help but shiver. 327. Where is Nyo Daodu? Hand her over! An elder roared. 327's complexion paled even further. Her lips moved, and she slowly shook her head. The clan elder's eyes turned red. Insolence. 327, don't forget your status. Do you want to disobey orders? 327 said, Elder, Nyo Daodu is Sect Master Chin's person. I promise to look after her, so please don't make things difficult for me. 327. Another elder roared. Chinyu harmed the patriarch and our clan has lost its status as the world's spirit of destiny. Don't you know that? Hurry up and hand her over. I think that 327 might have already betrayed our clan and thrown herself in with the heaven-splitting sword sex Chinyu. Otherwise, with her always following us, how could she not have sensed Chinyu's plot against our clan? The clan elder who spoke had an extremely gloomy and icy cold expression. The air suddenly fell silent. Yes, that's right. I thought something was wrong at the beginning. Why did Chinyu place so much importance on 327? She betrayed the tribe long ago. He deserves to die. The group of elders, as well as the people from the clan that had come with them, all had sinister expressions on their faces. With reddened eyes, 327 shook its head vigorously. No, but she couldn't bring herself to say the following words. This was because in her heart she was indeed inclined towards Chinyu, and the current misfortune of that clan was inextricably related to her. Speechless, the clan elder roared, Kill her! Bang! A few figures rushed into the courtyard. However, at this moment, the space suddenly trembled, and an invisible force erupted, directly knocking back the people who had rushed out. Puff! Puff! Blood spurted out from their mouths and noses. The expressions of everyone from that clan changed drastically. It's the power of Azure Dragon Mountain. How is this possible? An elder screamed. Chinyu, it's Chinyu. The cultivator's eyes went bloodshot. Not only did he kill our clan chief, but he also stole our clan status as the fate spirit of heaven and earth. Shwa, the anger and killing intent in the hearts of everyone from that clan reached the limit at this moment. That's right, it was like this. Otherwise, there was no way to explain what was happening in front of them. The small courtyard that Chinyu was in was actually protected by the strength of Azure Dragon Mountain. This was the most convincing evidence. Heaven opening sword sex Chinyu. My clan will not rest until you die. Kill, kill, kill. Kill. 327. Kill Nyo Dowdu. Even if you and I die, we will make him feel pain in his heart and give him endless trouble. Attack! With loud roars, the elders of that clan crazily rushed out to attack. Beams of light emitted a terrifying aura as they smashed into the small courtyard. However, it was a pity that all their efforts were in vain. This was because before their attacks could approach the small courtyard, they were blocked, shattered, and then disappeared. Beneath the protection of Azure Dragon Mountain strength, the interior was extremely safe. No matter how that clan roared out again and again, no matter how their killing intent boiled over, it was useless. 327. You traitor, come out and die. You harmed the patriarch and harmed my clan. You are the sinner of our clan. 327. You are still hiding inside? I curse you. I curse you to die a horrible death. Come out. Hurry up and come out. The people of that clan roared. The 327 was on the verge of collapse. Before this, in her heart, there was still a last trace of hope. She hoped that all of this was just a coincidence and that the fate of that clan had nothing to do with Chinyu. But now this hope had been shattered. No wonder before Chinyu left, he had asked her to stay here and take care of Nyo Dowdu. It was clear that, at that time, Chinyu had already made preparations to attack that clan. But she didn't notice anything at all. Not just that, but in this matter, she had even played a supporting role to Chinyu. Thinking of this, 327's face was drained of all color. Taking a deep breath, 327 looked up and faced the people of that clan. Okay, she took a step forward and walked out. Nyo Dowdu was in the courtyard. Safety was not a problem, so there was no need for her to continue staying here. Dying here was also a kind of release. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. 327 arrived in front of the courtyard door. Without hesitation, she reached out and pulled it open. She's coming out. Kill her. Kill this traitor. Amidst their roars, the fierce-looking elders of that clan directly struck out with killing intent. 327 closed her eyes. She could already feel the extremely rich aura of death. It completely wrapped around her entire body. Then die. But death did not come as promised. Instead, cries of pain suddenly rang out beside his ears. Shwa! 327's eyes shot open. She saw a familiar back appear in front of her. Chinyu! He had returned. Little Seven, I know that right now your heart is in great pain. But remember, I will give you an explanation for this matter. Chinyu glanced at her, his eyes sweeping over 327's pale face. His heart ached. After that, this heartache transformed into flames of rage that blazed within his heart. Chinyu, kill him. Take revenge for the patriarch. Fight him to the death. The people of that clan were bound by a common enemy. Chinyu coldly sneered. He lifted his hand and clenched it. Bang! Space fiercely twisted. The roaring and murderous crowd was sucked in. Then they were torn to pieces. Their mortal bodies and souls were destroyed. Don't! Behind him, 327's screams echoed out. Chinyu paused. He slowly drew back his outstretched hand. Then promise me that you will give me a chance to explain and not do anything stupid. Then I will promise to let them go. 327 bit her lips. Okay, shut up. We don't need you to pretend to be kind here. 327, you are the sinner of my clan, the eternal sinner. Chinyu's eyes swept around. Bang! The person who spoke was directly blown to pieces. I said that I would let you go, but that doesn't mean that I will let all of you go. If you aren't afraid of death, you can continue speaking. The people of that clan glared at him, but deep in their hearts, they couldn't help but feel fear. It was just that Chinyu was far too terrifying right now. As the new heaven and earth destiny spirit, he was the master of this heavenly abode, mystic realm. This was the same as his domain. Everyone's life or death depended on a single thought. If they continued to resist, all that awaited them was death. But the eyes of the people of that clan were still blazing with killing intent. They wished that they could skin Qin Yu alive. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves. Bang, bang, bang. With a series of muffled bangs, the several scariest people in the room all exploded. Put away your gazes. That patriarch was indeed killed by me. The status of the heaven and earth destiny spirit was also taken away by me. Do you hate me? But I have carried this hatred on my back for many years. Qin Yu lifted a hand and pointed between his eyebrows. Pah! The concealment of the boundary ring disappeared at this moment. His true aura was exposed for the first time. The eyes of the people of that clan widened as they stubbornly stared at Qin Yu. They could feel the instinctive fear and killing intent, as well as an inconceivable sense of closeness and familiarity. Qin Yu had no expression. I believe in your senses. There is nothing wrong with them. I, Qin Yu, have the same bloodline as all of you. But my bloodline was extracted and stripped by you a long time ago, and I was exiled. Even my parents were killed, and my little sister's memories were erased by you. She has been an orphan to this day. Qin Yu roared. Tell me, should I kill you or not? The complexions of the several elders of that clan changed. They stared at Qin Yu, their faces filled with disbelief and horror. No, impossible. It's him, it's him. You're still alive. No, you're dead. You died a long time ago. No, absolutely not. The patriarch has already handled everything. These elders seemed to have gone mad, their faces filled with fear. Qin Yu sneered. It's obvious that I didn't die. Not only did I not die, but I even lived to this day. Otherwise, how could I have personally sent you all to hell? So, today's result is your own fault. I don't feel the least bit of guilt, nor do I feel the least bit of pity towards you. Everyone in that clan deserves to die. They deserve to be destroyed. It is you who owes me and my little sister. He flicked his sleeves and space violently shook. Like a great tide, all the people in front of him were sent flying away. Scram! Never appear in front of me again, otherwise I will kill you. Puff! Puff! The cultivators of that clan wildly spat out blood from their orifices as they were sent flying far away. In the blink of an eye, they had vanished without a trace. Qin Yu turned and looked at the incredulous 327. His voice became gentle. You didn't hear wrong. 327, you are my little sister. He lifted a hand and placed a finger between her eyebrows. By Fei Fei. The matter of awakening her memories would naturally be left to her. My lord, please rest assured. Bai Fei Fei softly said. She could sense Qin Yu's current mood and didn't delay in the least. A trace of light followed Qin Yu's finger and sank between her eyebrows. 327 subconsciously closed her eyes. Then her body began to shiver, as if she had fallen into a terrifying nightmare. Qin Yu's eyes revealed a bit of unwillingness. He didn't wish for 327 to recall those painful memories, but she had to know if she could pass this hurdle in her heart. They had never owed that clan anything. It was everyone in that clan who owed them. Chapter 1781. Finally, 327 opened her eyes. As she looked at Qin Yu, tears streamed down her cheeks. Big brother. She threw herself into Qin Yu's arms. Qin Yu hugged her. He softly said, Little Seven, it's okay, it's okay. 327 fell asleep in his arms. Cough. Niu Daodu walked out, her face shaken. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Is she really your little sister? Qin Yu nodded. Yes. He picked up 327 and walked into the room. He put her down and looked at her furrowed eyebrows. He wiped away her tears and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. Niu Daodu stood behind. Qin Yu, you don't need to be like this. This isn't your fault. Qin Yu took a deep breath and stood up. Daodu, I still haven't thanked you. During this time, you have helped me so much. He cupped his hands together. Thank you. In the future, as long as I can do it, just ask. I will absolutely not decline. Niu Daodu humphed. You changed your attitude so quickly. Isn't it because you're worried that I will shamelessly stick to you again? Qin Yu, don't worry. I already said that I don't like you anymore. Qin Yu shook his head. It's not like that. Niu Daodu glanced at him. Forget it, forget it. I am a magnanimous person and won't make things difficult for you. But you must remember what you said. Perhaps one day I will come looking for you. Qin Yu said, I will. Niu Daodu said, Qin Yu, what do you plan on doing next? Qin Yu said, I don't know. Niu Daodu's eyes widened in shock. You don't know? You don't know? Qin Yu bitterly smiled. I'm not. Everything can be predicted and no one knows what will happen in the future. I can only take things one step at a time. His eyes fell on 327. But the first thing I need to do is take good care of her. During these years, she has been alone. As her big brother, I owe her far too much. In the southwestern desolate region's broken world, in order to compete for the ruler's inheritance, Qin Yu had even attacked 327. Thinking of this, he felt increasingly guilty. Luckily, nothing major had happened. Niu Daodu said, It's good to have a big brother. I'm envious of 327. Qin Yu said, You can also call me Big Brother. Taking advantage of me, 327 glared at him. Be careful. From now on, we are just ordinary friends. We have to keep our distance. Otherwise, that old ancestor of mine will definitely not let you off. Qin Yu laughed, his mood suddenly becoming much better. Actually, when he said that he didn't know what to do next, he wasn't trying to decline. The great enmity that had been pressing down on his heart had suddenly been avenged. Although he could maintain his calm, he still couldn't help but fall into an empty and vacant state. He needed time to adjust. But right now, what Qin Yu was most worried about was 327's condition. Because no matter what, she was a member of that clan. And if that clan was robbed of its status as the karmic spirit of heaven and earth, as the bloodline of that clan, 327 would also suffer a backlash. Qin Yu could only hope that the consequences of this backlash weren't too terrifying. At the very least, it had to be within the scope of his control. Otherwise, Qin Yu didn't dare to imagine what would happen, nor was he able to face such a result. Niu Daodu noticed Qin Yu's gloomy mood. She stepped forwards and said, Don't worry, she will definitely be fine. Yes. Qin Yu took a deep breath. He stood up and said, Daodu, I'll have to trouble you to look after her. I have some matters to attend to. All right. Turning and leaving, Qin Yu asked in a low voice, Bai Feifei, how is my little sister? Bai Feifei said, My lord, you shouldn't be asking me about this. You know best. His heart sinking, Qin Yu said, Tell me the truth. Bai Feifei paused, then said, It's not too good. Ah, my lord, you told me to tell you the truth. We can't take out our anger on others. Of course, although it's not too good, it doesn't mean that something will happen immediately. In short, there are ways to repair it. Qin Yu said, How do we do it? Tell me. Bai Feifei said, 327's current problem is that her bloodline has suffered a backlash. This will cause her life force to completely fade away in a short period of time. If we want 327 to be fine and continue living, then we can only extend her life force. This matter is easy to say. As long as you can find a long-lived species and have them not hesitate to consume their own source, they can extend their life force. But if you want to say it's difficult, long-lived species also want to continue growing stronger, so they won't easily do something that will consume their own life force. Qin Yu said, What conditions do you have? Bai Feifei said, My lord, you are well aware of my current condition. If I want to extend 327's life, the consumption will be even greater. So, if you want me to help, my lord will have to continue to help me find the other parts of my body. Otherwise, even if you force me to my death, I won't be able to last much longer. I can. Qin Yu nodded without hesitation. I will help you. Thank you, my lord. Then I can guarantee that 327 will be fine for the time being. Bai Feifei hesitated for a moment. However, this method cannot solve the root of the problem. If you really want to save her, it won't be easy. The current 327 was like a leaking bucket, her life force constantly leaking out. Although replenishing her life force could allow her to live, as time passed, the hole would become larger and larger. The rate at which she lost her life force would also increase. In the end, she would completely collapse, and there would be no possibility of saving her. Qin Yu was silent for a moment. Then he slowly said, "Once I become a blazing sun, everything is possible." At this moment, the impulse to become stronger became incomparably strong. Deep within the void realm, the sea of disarray. Bang, bang. Terrifying shockwaves of strength constantly erupted. Unexpectedly, there were two figures fighting here. One of them wore blue robes. His expression was calm, and his eyes were filled with firm, killing intent. It was as if he wouldn't give up even if he went to the depths of the Yellow Springs. And across from him was a red-clothed Taoist. Flames blazed all around him, and a terrifying aura seemed capable of splitting the heavens and earth. Suddenly, the complexion of the blue-clothed cultivator changed. He suddenly turned around and widened his eyes, revealing a look of shock. Soon, the red-clothed Taoist also sensed something. Ha ha ha. The Taoist laughed. That clan was originally rootless duckweed. They shouldn't have continued to exist in this world. Now they have finally been punished, and their status as the world's destiny spirit has been taken away. He lifted his hand, and a flame saber instantly appeared. A cruel and savage aura filled the air. Autumn, you have chased me all the way here. Today is the day you die. Bang! The flame's saber slashed down. In an instant, the sea of disarray was split apart. A terrifying burning aura seemed as if it could burn the heavens and boil the sea. With a heaven-shaking explosion, Autumn was sent flying backwards. He lifted his arms in front of him. His sleeves were charred black. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The moment this blood left his body, it ignited with a loud bang. After the first saber, the Taoist slashed out a second time without hesitation. Then a third saber, a fourth saber, a fifth saber. Each saber was faster and fiercer than the last. A terrifying burning aura covered the entire sea of disarray in raging flames. Burn all things. Autumn, stop resisting. You have been stripped of your status as the world's destiny spirit. You have suffered a backlash, and your strength has been greatly reduced. You are not my match at all. Give up. This is the fate of that clan. Starting many years ago, when you lost control of the southwest desolate region, your fate was already sealed. Then let me send you on your way. The Taoist's voice was ice-cold and filled with killing intent. In these past years, he had been incomparably angry. He had even been chased into the sea of disarray. He had been exhausted from running for his life. It wasn't that the Taoist wasn't strong enough. As an immortal second only to the long-lived species, he was extremely strong and could deter the world. But Autumn was even stronger. Luckily, after fleeing for so many years, the Taoist had finally ushered in a favorable turn. That clan status as the world's destiny spirit had been stripped away, and Autumn had suffered a backlash. This was his best chance. If he killed Autumn, then with his cultivation, he would only need to spend some time at most to find the way back. Scarlet firmament. A deep roar came from the raging flames. Bang! A formidable aura suddenly erupted from within. Taoist Scarlet Firmament's eyes widened. His face shook as he cried out, "Impossible!" This aura he had broken through. Autumn had broken through. Bang! The flame saber slashed down. But this time it failed to hit its target and was scattered by a single punch. Taoist Scarlet Firmament was sent flying backwards. His complexion darkened and his eyes filled with anger. It was true, it was actually true. Damn it. Autumn had broken through his bottleneck. The sea of flames began to extinguish. Autumn walked out from within. After his blue robes were burned away by the flames, he looked particularly distressed. But now, no one paid any attention to this. This was because the current Autumn was incomparably powerful. As he stood there, he seemed to exist for all eternity. No matter how much time washed over him, even if tens of millions of years passed, he would still remain where he was, motionless and unchanging. He had transcended time, and this was one of the greatest characteristics of a long-lived species. Above the Emperor realm was the realm beyond. Once one succeeded, they would become a long-lived species. But this wasn't easy. The difficulty was shockingly high. In the Emperor realm, not even 1 in 1,000 people could succeed. And in order to resist the scouring of the power of time and preserve their vitality, immortals appeared. They borrowed external objects that possessed the attribute of a long-lived species. After refining them and fusing them into their own bodies, they could become nearly immortal existences. Only at this realm could one be considered qualified to attack the realm of a long-lived species. Of course, in order to become an immortal, one had to be at the peak of the Emperor realm. As for that clan's Autumn, she had been an undying since many years ago. Break and rise, break and rise. Lord Scarlet Firmament muttered to himself, his eyes brightening. So it was like this. No wonder, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find a direction to break through. It turned out that success was due to an immortal and failure was also due to an immortal. It was because of his immortal attribute that he had lost the will to fight and cut off all means of retreat. This was why he wasn't able to support his breakthrough and step into the realm of a long-lived species. Scarlet Firmament lifted his hand, raised his flame blade, and fiercely shook it. Bang! The flame blade shattered. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face paled. But at this moment, Scarlet Firmament's eyes became even brighter. Bottleneck. He could feel the bottleneck that stood in front of him. This was the threshold that had existed for countless years, but he couldn't truly feel it. It was the threshold that belonged to a long-lived species. But now it had finally appeared. Ha 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 ha. Taoist Scarlet Firmament laughed. Bang! His aura skyrocketed at this moment. Autumn, let us fight again. Let's see who can achieve the Tao and surpass us in one fell swoop. Longevity was right in front of him. Chapter 1782. Taoist Scarlet Firmament's immortality came from his flame saber, eternal and undying. As for Autumn's immortality, it was the curse of her race, a nearly immortal attribute. Today, in the depths of the void realm, in the sea of chaos, the two immortals had lost their immortal substance and completed their life transformation. For Chiu, the problem of bloodline backlash was no longer a problem. Because immortals lived forever, they existed in the world forever, unafraid of the erosion of time. Soon, a great battle was about to take the first step into the domain of immortals. But at this time, Autumn and Taoist Scarlet Firmament's complexions changed. Light erupted from afar. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the two. Beneath its illumination, it was like a towering mountain was descending, pressing down on them. The two people who stepped into immortals felt their breath catch in their throat. Beneath this light, they felt an absolute suppression. They couldn't resist it. A figure walked out from the light. He calmly said, "The two of you have the direction I need. Tell me your origins, and I will find the way home." A deep and low voice reverberated through the depths of the sea of chaos. Heavenly grotto mystic realm, starry sea. After sleeping for 5 days, 300 327 finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, she saw Chinyu in front of her. "Big brother," she whispered, a bit hesitant, as if she were in a dream. Chinyu rubbed her head and smiled. "I'm not dreaming. I am your big brother. I will always protect you from now on." 327 nodded, her eyes red. "Don't cry. Our great enmity has been avenged, and we brother and sister have reunited. This is a happy occasion." Chinyu pulled her up. "Come, let's go eat." The dishes on the table were all personally prepared by Nyo Daodu. It was hard to imagine that with her status, she could actually have such excellent cooking skills. According to Nyo Daodu, this was what it meant to be a chef after eating for a long time. After tasting countless delicacies in the world, she had learned a few things. But the facts proved that she wasn't bragging. The taste was indeed amazing. "Come, let us raise our cups together. Congratulations on your reunion." Nyo Daodu raised her cup and winked. "Little Seven, do you know that I almost became your sister-in-law?" Chinyu coughed, his face flushing red. Nyo Daodu glared at him and snorted coldly. "Luckily, this young miss found out in time that your brother is a married man. So I reined in the horse at the precipice and didn't suffer any losses. So in the future, you must keep an eye on your brother. He's already a man with a family, so he shouldn't seduce girls so easily. It's only because I'm kind that I don't care about it. Otherwise, his legs will be broken sooner or later." Chinyu bitterly smiled. 327 looked at her and then at Chinyu, his face full of disbelief. My brother isn't that kind of person." As he spoke, he lost his confidence. This was because she suddenly remembered that when she didn't know about her relationship with Chinyu, she also thought that her big brother was a very, very good person. He really gave people a sense of security. If it was applied to Nyo Daodu, it did seem to be a little attractive to ignorant girls. Chinyu covered his face. "Daodu, don't joke around." He raised his glass. "Come, cheers." "Ha ha ha ha." Nyo Daodu laughed happily. "Little Seven, you're just too cute. I'm just joking with you." 327 looked distressed. Nyo Daodu had drunk too much. She hugged Chinyu and cursed him. Heartless man, ingrate, heartless. She cursed him without end. 327's eyes were full of interest. "Chin, you didn't even have the time to put on a fatherly and loving attitude. It was instantly broken." "Chin Chi, this will be your name from now on," Chinyu said with a smile. 327's body stiffened. He looked up at him and nodded heavily. Chin Chi. She had a name from now on. Chinyu was silent. "Brother, is there something on your mind?" Chinyu said, There's something I need to talk to you about." He stood up. "I'll take care of Daodu first, then we can talk." He sent the drunk, Nyo Daodu back to her room. He heard her curse a few more times, and Chinyu reached out and pinched her nose. "Little girl!" He turned and walked out. Chin Chi finished brewing tea and took the initiative to pour it for her big brother. Chinyu sat opposite her and said, "Chi, there's something I need to tell you. When I eradicated that clan, I took away their status as the spirit of heaven and earth." He looked at Chin Chi. "This will lead to one consequence. Everyone in that clan will suffer a backlash from their bloodline. Or, to be more precise, it will be a backlash from heaven and earth. You will not be an exception." Chin Chi asked, "Will I die?" Chinyu shook his head. "No, I've already temporarily stabilized your problem. I'll slowly think of a way to eradicate it for you. There won't be any accidents." Chin Chi said, "Thank you, big brother." Chinyu said, "You don't blame me? After all, it's because of me." "I don't." Chin Chi smiled. "It's not just because you're helping us take revenge. It's also because you're my big brother. I have my own name now. My name is Chin Chi. I know that my father and mother love me very much, and I have a big brother who will protect me. I'm very happy." Chinyu said in a low voice, "Chi, Big Brother promises you that I will definitely cure you. I won't let you suffer any harm in the future. Chin Chi nodded. I believe in Big Brother. Chin Yu smiled. In your current condition, it's not suitable for you to use your cultivation. Otherwise, it will accelerate the loss of your vitality. So, you can't stay with me for a period of time, because I still have some things to deal with. Big Brother is going to send you to Niu Daodu's home. She will be with you, and it will be very safe. With Niu Dingtian's strength, no one can hurt you. Qin Chi-Chi's eyes were filled with reluctance, but she still nodded. Okay. Qin Yu held her hand. Don't be sad. When Big Brother is done with the things at hand, I'll come to see you. The next day, when Niu Daodu woke up, Qin Yu and the other two left. At the edge of Star Sea Grotto Heaven, Qin Yu flicked his sleeves and released the access permission. Swish! Niu Dingtian's figure appeared in front of him. He looked at Qin Yu, a complex look in his eyes. He never imagined that Qin Yu would be able to overturn that clan so easily. Senior Niu. Qin Yu took the initiative to speak. Niu Dingtian nodded. Don't worry. Chi-Chi, stay in Sky Bull City. I promise you that you'll be fine. Thank you. Qin Yu cupped his hands and turned around. Chi-Chi, go with Senior Niu. His eyes fell on Niu Daodu. Take care of her. Niu Daodu waved her hand. You don't need to say that. Chi-Chi is my good friend. I will take care of her. Ahem, then we'll go. Niu Dingtian flicked his sleeves and wrapped up Niu Daodu and Qin Chi-Chi. They disappeared in a flash. Qin Yu couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although Niu Dingtian's behavior was normal, he could still sense his avoidance attitude. Sure enough, the heavenly punishment was terrifying. Even a big shot like Niu Dingtian didn't dare to go near him. But he knew that Qin Yu's problem was not. That was all. The heavenly punishment was just one of the problems. At this moment, Qin Yu's face suddenly changed. A trace of fear gushed out from the bottom of his heart. He looked up subconsciously and looked into the distance. It was as if there was a gaze that was crossing the endless distance and falling on him. Found you. A voice suddenly sounded in his ear. It was elusive like a bubble. Gone in a flash. Swish! Beads of sweat appeared on Qin Yu's forehead. His face was ashen. Bai Feifei! Swish! Bai Feifei appeared with a flash of light. She also had a grave expression. There was no need to ask. Just her expression was enough to tell him that it was not an illusion. You sensed it too? Bai Feifei nodded. My lord, this is, Qin Yu said in a low voice, our sex competitor. Bai Feifei reacted instantly. Her face turned even uglier. Qin Yu held a fragment of the blazing sun in his hand. He had called that aura a competitor. His identity was self-evident. He was the wielder of the remaining fragments of the blazing sun. Most importantly, the owner of the fragment of the blazing sun was far stronger than Qin Yu. Even Bai Feifei, who was a long-lived species, felt immense pressure. My lord already knew of this person's existence. Qin Yu nodded. The aura of the blazing sun fragment was locked on not long ago. This person is crossing the sea of chaos and locking on to our sex position. I thought it would take a long time for him to arrive, but it looks like he's not far away now. Bai Feifei smiled bitterly. She suddenly realized that her being punished by the heavenly punishment didn't seem to be too miserable after all. Qin Yu's experience was much more difficult than hers. The other wielder of the blazing sun fragment was a powerful existence that could suppress long-lived species. No matter how she looked at it, Qin Yu had no chance of winning. My lord, what do you intend to do? Qin Yu took a deep breath. I'll do my best and leave the rest to the heavens. I can't just stretch out my neck and wait to be executed. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. Furthermore, who knows what will happen in the future? I won't be killed so easily. Bai Feifei looked at the determined Qin Yu in front of her and felt a trace of admiration. Disregarding everything else, His determination was very strong. The situation was difficult, but it was better than Chinyu, a weakling who was scared to death by others. Otherwise, there would really be no hope. "My lord, you have to think of a way to increase your strength as soon as possible." Chinyu nodded, feeling increasingly anxious. He had found his sister, and there was an additional burden on his shoulders. If he wanted to protect her from harm, the prerequisite was that he himself had to stay alive. Otherwise, Chi-Chi would definitely be implicated. He looked at Bai Feifei. "Do you have any suggestions?" Bai Feifei said, "My lord, did Little Meat teach you the toad technique?" Chinyu nodded. "Then there's no mistake." Bai Feifei's eyes brightened. "My lord, actually, she has already prepared your future cultivation path. You should know very well why your cultivation has increased so much that you have the strength to fight against the true sovereign today, right?" Chinyu thought for a moment, then said slowly, "Skyfall Mountain." He looked over. Bai Feifei nodded. "This is the fastest and most effective method. Most importantly, others can't, but you can." Chapter 1783. Speak clearly. Bai Feifei calmly said, "To sum it up, it is very simple. Kill a true sovereign, refine the great Tao, and steal his cultivation." She lifted a hand. "The reason I said that others cannot do this, but my lord can, is because Little Meaty has already opened up this road for you. The true name of the toad art is the bright moonstar art. It wildly absorbs heaven and earth spiritual strength to rapidly increase one's cultivation. In essence, it is a plundering cultivation method. But just this cultivation method alone is far from enough. Otherwise, the true sovereign great Tao would be far too cheap. The true key is that in your soul space, my lord, there is a rotating sun and moon. They have nearly formed the outline of a true sun and moon. With this and my help, you can refine the true sovereign great Tao and forcefully seize their cultivation, rapidly increasing yourself. Kill a true sovereign, seize their great Tao, and use it to boost one's own cultivation. Just how crazy was this method? Thinking about it, only a long-lived existence like Bai Feifei would be able to guess Little Meaty's true plan. Chinyu's thoughts raced. He could confirm that this was indeed Little Meaty's true intentions. Thus, she wanted Chinyu to temporarily borrow the strength to fight a true sovereign. This was in order to have the qualifications to walk down this road. Did the little blue lamp know? There was a high chance it did. Otherwise, with just Little Meaty alone, it was impossible for the sun and moon in her soul space to form the outline of a true sun and moon. In other words, they had tacitly allowed Chinyu to do this. Taking a deep breath, Chinyu said, "Fine, but my sect will not kill the innocent. This is my bottom line." Bai Feifei rolled her eyes. At this time, he was still playing around with his bottom line. He really didn't fear death. Of course, my lord has the final say in all of this. Moreover, I think my lord has many targets you can attack. For instance, the ancient remnant citizens. Those bastards should have long since been swept into their graves. They were very disrespectful to you before. There is also the state of Qin. What status do you have now? There is no need to fear them at all. Just face them head on. If a true sovereign comes, kill one. If two come, kill two. Seize their great Tao, and your cultivation will steadily rise. Soon, you will become a true sovereign. At that time, we can think of a way to take another step forward. Bai Feifei was excited. Chinyu glanced at her and suddenly said, "The state of Qin is suppressing your body?" Bai Feifei stared blankly at Chinyu. Well, my lord, you must know that everything I've said is for your own good. Of course, I can't lie through my teeth. That's exactly what happened." She gave him a thumbs up. "My lord, you're so smart. Stop flattering me." Chinyu snorted. No wonder Bai Feifei was so enthusiastic. However, Chinyu was not angered by this, because right now everyone was jumping on the same rope. If Bai Feifei could regain the strength of a long-lived species, it would be a great help to him. As for Bai Feifei, would she play one trick in front of his face and another behind his back? Humph! Qin Yu truly wasn't afraid. The little blue lamp had indeed hidden itself, completely hiding its aura. But in a truly critical moment, how could it not help? As long as the little blue lamp took action, Bai Feifei wouldn't be able to overturn the heavens. She should be well aware of this. That was why Bai Feifei would not play tricks with Qin Yu unless she had lost her mind. The general situation has been set. As for what to do, it depends on the situation. But right now, we cannot provoke the state of Qin. Qin Yu's words were resolute and decisive. He did not waver on this point. Nonsense. Was the state of Qin easy to provoke? The 4 sects and 4 families, as well as the monster race and the ancient remnant, were not present. Which faction did not have a true emperor? But towards the state of Qin, they were all respectful, not daring to offend it in the slightest. This alone was enough to show the state of Qin's strength. It was true that they did not have a good relationship with the state of Qin, and it was also true that they had been tricked by the imperial tutor. But when it was time to endure, one had to endure. Bai Feifei said resentfully, "My lord, with your status, you're too cautious." Caution is longevity. Qin Yu paused, a self-deprecating smile on his lips. "I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but I feel that I'm becoming more and more afraid of death." Bai Feifei thought for a moment. There's no one in this world who isn't afraid of death. It's not shameful. Qin Yu shook his head. "Don't joke around. Let's go." He turned and stepped forwards, directly returning to Azure Dragon Mountain. He appeared at Dragon Head Mountain, where the ancestral temple of that clan had been. The mountain had already collapsed, and the ancestral temple of that clan had been reduced to ruins. There was no longer a single person here. The people of that clan that Qin Yu had released had long since fled, without a trace. Of course, after cultivating to this day, Qin Yu definitely understood the logic of a wildfire that couldn't be extinguished. The reason he had released the people of that clan was because they were doomed to die. It was just a matter of time. In the end, Chi-Chi was different from him. She had always lived with that clan, and Qin Yu didn't believe that she didn't have any feelings for them. Rather than making her even sadder, Qin Yu would rather give the people of that clan a painful and sad experience of death. With a flick of his sleeves, the ruins of that clan's ancestral temple were swept to the side. Qin Yu arrived beneath the withered pagoda tree. He looked up at the skies. He recalled the azure dragon that he had seen in the past, the incarnation of the destiny of the world. It seemed to have been waiting for Qin Yu. After he arrived, it directly fused into Qin Yu's body. What was the reason? Qin Yu never believed that he was truly the chosen one of the heavens. And there was always a reason for everything. The reason Qin Yu came here was to try and find the truth of the matter. Just what was different about him? To be able to make the destiny of the world wait until today. But unfortunately, Qin Yu stood there for an hour. His divine sense swept over the entire Azure Dragon Mountain with Dragon Head Mountain as the center, but he still didn't find anything. But it wasn't that he didn't discover anything. Shwa, Qin Yu stepped out. When he appeared again, he was in the wilderness. In front of him were 2 mounds of dirt nestled against each other. On the surface, there were weeds growing everywhere. There was even an unknown bird that had made its home here. They had bright feathers and long beaks. As they stared at the uninvited guest that suddenly appeared, they revealed a look of unease and panic. When Qin Yu's gaze fell on them, the 2 birds spread open their wings and protected their nest. Qin Yu soon knew what they were protecting. This was because from beneath their wings, 2 small heads popped out. It turned out that they had hatched their children. At this moment, Qin Yu suddenly felt sad. His eyes fell on the 2 small mounds of dirt. He took a step back and knelt down to kowtow. Once, twice, thrice. Qin Yu stood up. The truth was that in his memories his impression of his parents was still vague. But no matter what, They were the ones who brought him into this world. After a moment of silence, Chinyu said, "Father, Mother, I didn't think that I would be able to find the location of your grave, so I came alone today. But my sister is fine. I don't remember my sister's name, so now I call her Chi-Chi. Her surname is the same as mine. This child has avenged the two elders. If anyone in the underworld knows, please rest in peace." He took a deep look at the small mounds of dirt on the ground and the nest here. Chinyu turned and left. He didn't do anything. He just let the bird family continue to live here. Shwa! Chinyu's figure appeared at the edge of the Star Sea Grotto. He took a step forward and disappeared from sight. He thought of another way to investigate his own problems. A group of cultivators was migrating. Everyone was pale, and there was an unconcealable fear in their eyes. They were the people from that clan that had fled from the Star Sea Grotto. After their initial anger passed, they soon realized that there was a problem with their bodies. Their life force was dispersing. Moreover, as time passed, it was dispersing faster and faster. The aura of death shrouded everyone's hearts. The people of that clan that had been clamoring for revenge against Qin Yu gradually fell silent. Bai Feifei had said that there was no one in this world who didn't fear death. The people of that clan were no exception. "Elders, what should we do?" A cultivator from that clan asked with a panicked expression. He asked the question that was on everyone's mind. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Numerous gazes gathered from all directions. Amidst the despair, there was also a trace of desire to live. The elders who were questioned fell into silence. This silence undoubtedly indicated a certain attitude. The gathered eyes dimmed little by little. The air became even more deathly still. Our life force is dispersing. The reason is that our status as the world's destiny spirit was seized and we suffered a backlash. An elder suddenly said, "If we want to live, the only way is to kill Chinyu and take back our status as the world's destiny spirit." Another elder nodded. "That's right, this is the only way. Otherwise, all of us will die." Despicable. The heaven-opening sword sex Qin, you must have already known of the situation we would face. So he pretended to be magnanimous and let us leave. Kill him. We must kill him. Take back our status as the world's destiny spirit. My clan will not be destroyed like this. Roars and shouts filled the air. Suddenly, puff, there was a dull thud. The fiercest and most ferocious elder looked as if he wanted to tear Chinyu apart and tear his head off. Blood gushed out. On his rolling head, a pair of eyes widened, filled with horror, fear, and confusion. Pah! A foot stepped on his rolling head. Chinyu was expressionless. He swept his eyes over the people of that clan. "You want to kill me and take back your status as the world's destiny spirit? Very well. Chinyu!" With a scream, the people of that clan revealed looks of horror and fear. They subconsciously drew back. Chinyu's eyes were icy cold. "What? You don't want to continue shouting? I am right here. So why aren't you coming to kill me? Chinyu, do you want to go back on your word?" The elder roared. "You already agreed to let us leave alive." Bang! His entire body was instantly torn to shreds by the sword breath. The pungent smell of blood filled the air. Chinyu said, "I also told you not to appear in front of me again." He swept his eyes around, but now you are here. Chapter 1784. Sect Master Qin. Just what will it take for you to let us go? The clan elder asked in a low voice. Qin Yu had a calm expression. "I have a question. Answer me truthfully and I will let you leave alive. Otherwise you will die here and now. Sect Master Qin, please speak. Why did you force my parents to death, and why did you strip away my bloodline?" Qin Yu lifted a finger. "I will only give you one chance. Think carefully before you answer." The complexions of the several clan elders changed. And at this time, Qin Yu's eyes had already covered them. There had to be a hidden story behind this. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Chi-Chi to live peacefully until today. Good, I will tell you the answer. An elder roared out loud, a cold sneer on his face. Chinyu, do you hate my clan? Do you think that we killed your father and mother? Do you think that we extracted your bloodline and left you to fend for yourself? But the truth is that the one who caused all of this was you. It was all because of you that they died. You are the main culprit. Chinyu lifted a hand and grasped. An invisible strength erupted, instantly grabbing the elder's neck and pulling him in front of him. Continue. This clan elder clearly didn't care about anything else. He laughed out loud. Even if you don't let me speak, I will still speak clearly. In the past, my clan should have taken over and become the master of the Southwest Desolate region, establishing an empire that belonged to my clan. What was hateful was that the great Qin of the Central Desolate region went back on its word. It didn't truly kill the Southwest Desolate region's last great emperor. Instead, he detonated the things that fell from the heavens and destroyed the Southwest Desolate region, causing my clan to lose their surname and become rootless duckweed. In order to survive, my clan could only accept the gifts of the heavens and earth. With the identity of the world's destiny, we became immortal beings. But not everyone has the qualifications to accept the gifts of the heavens and earth. You do not have the qualifications, and you are even rejected by the heavens and earth. Your parents were killed to protect you. Otherwise, if you were the only one who died, they would still be alive today. Chinyu, this is the truth you want to know. So, the one who killed your parents was you. You harmed them. Bang! This person was crushed by Chinyu. His eyes swept over the other elders. Chinyu, this is the truth. Even if you kill all of us, it will still be the same. Another elder laughed loudly, a crazed expression on his face. Right now, aren't you in pain? That's right, this is what you deserve. Laughing loudly, the man charged forward. But before he could approach, he was smashed to pieces by Chinyu's punch. Lies, you're all lying. He took a step forward, and his sword aura instantly erupted, covering the surrounding space. Puff, puff! The sound of flesh being sliced apart rang out as several of the clan's elders were instantly turned into meat paste. Chinyu's eyes turned red. Crazy! Chinyu has gone crazy! Run, run quickly. Every single one of our clansmen can live. We absolutely cannot allow him to kill all of us here. No matter who escapes, they must firmly remember everything that Chinyu has done to our people. They must remember this hatred forever and never forget it. Whoosh, whoosh, the people of that clan fled in all directions. However, there were also people who did not choose to flee. On the contrary, they erupted with their full cultivation and rushed towards Chinyu. He was willing to sacrifice himself to buy time for his clansmen to escape. It was very noble. But to Chinyu, this sort of nobility had no meaning at all. Right now, he only had one thought. Kill. Kill everyone. They all deserve to die. He lifted his hand and grasped. The mountain and river sword appeared and swept forwards. Wherever the sword peak passed, space collapsed inch by inch. All the cultivators of that clan that were rushing over were sucked in. In an instant, they were torn to pieces. Shwa! Chinyu took a step forward, and his figure instantly vanished. When he reappeared, he was already behind a group of cultivators. Ah, it's Chinyu. We can escape. Fight him to the death. Bang! The mountain and river sword slashed down. Under the sword edge, all their resentment and despair vanished into nothing. As the sword slashed down, Chinyu didn't pause at all. He turned and took another step forward, chasing after another group of cultivators. A group of fleeing cultivators from that clan. The mountain and river sword slashed down again. At this moment, Chinyu was like a slaughtering demon that had walked out from hell, recklessly slaughtering. The cultivators of that clan were like stalks in a field of hay, falling down in batches and shattering. Chinyu, calm down, calm down. Bai Feifei screamed with all her might. Hurry up and wake up. If this continues, you will fall into depravity." But her screams were useless now. The tiny blood vessels on the surface of Qin Yu's eyes were congested with blood, turning redder and redder, as if blood were about to seep out. "Qin Yu, you devil! You sinner that killed your own parents! I curse you! I curse you to live in eternal pain! Kill, kill! The souls of everyone in my clan will haunt you forever and make you suffer endless torture. Fight him to the death! Even if we die, we must tear off a piece of flesh from Qin Yu's body." In their despair, the cultivators of that clan erupted. However, it was a pity that their outburst in a desperate situation was completely useless. Those that dared to resist were quickly killed. As for those that survived, their hearts were filled with fear. "No, don't kill me. Qin Yu, we knew nothing about what happened in the past. None of this has anything to do with us. I beg you, on account that we are of the same bloodline, please be magnanimous and let us go." Their pleas were still useless. Qin Yu continued to flash about. Wherever he went, there was only blood and death. The cultivators of that clan howled in despair, cursing and cursing. Finally, they fell silent. When the last cultivator of that clan was reduced to dust by the mountain and river sword, he finally stopped. "Hum! Hum!" the mountain and river sword cried out. At this time, because it had eaten its fill of blood, it had turned dark red. A visible blood-red aura lingered around Qin Yu's body, wrapping him within. His blood-red eyes were filled with cruelty and destruction. His body trembled, and as Qin Yu's body shivered, the skies shattered and the earth cracked. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. Rumble, rumble. A deep rumbling sound exploded above his head. Blood-red clouds rapidly appeared. Thunder roared within. "Qin Yu, hold on. You must hold on. You cannot fall into the demonic path. You absolutely cannot fall into the demonic path. Otherwise, you will truly be beyond redemption, and no one will be able to save you." Bai Feifei screamed. She never thought that learning the truth would stimulate Qin Yu so greatly. It caused Qin Yu to lose control of his mind. Swish! A figure descended above his head. His eyes fell on Qin Yu, revealing a dignified expression. Falling into the demonic path, this person was the imperial advisor of the great Qin dynasty. While his face was dignified, his eyes became exceptionally bright, concealing the heat in their depths. If he could obtain the corpse of an Emperor Realm sword cultivator, he would be compensated for his fruitless efforts in the demon race's ancestral land. In fact, it would be even better. An Emperor Realm sword cultivator had died under the demonic path. Coupled with the sword in Qin Yu's hand, his strength would be extremely terrifying after being refined into a corpse puppet. Swish! Another figure descended. It was Niu Dingtian. His eyes widened as he looked at the demonic Qin Yu, his heart trembling. "Qin Yu!" he bellowed. His voice exploded, carrying with it the power to penetrate one's heart. Swish! Qin Yu looked up, his blood-red eyes locking onto him. Niu Dingtian was shocked. In those eyes, he could only sense slaughter and destruction. Falling into the demonic path. He had already fallen into the demonic path. Damn it, how could this be? Not too long ago, when they had separated, Qin Yu had been perfectly fine. Niu Dingtian's eyes fell on the imperial advisor. The imperial advisor said lightly, "I don't have the means to tempt a true emperor into the demonic path. This matter has nothing to do with me." Niu Dingtian frowned, but he knew that the imperial advisor was right. His eyes swept over the corpses around him, feeling their auras after they died. That clan! It was clear that there were no longer any living people here. From today onwards, that clan would completely disappear, becoming the dust of history. What did Qin Yu's demonic path have to do with them? Could it be that the clan had left something behind to scheme against Qin Yu? Swish, swish! One figure after another descended upon the area. Qin Yu's demonic path released a terrifying aura. For the true emperors of the world, it was like a burning torch in the darkness. Not only was it bright and dazzling, but it also made them feel the threat of the flames burning their bodies. Heaven, splitting sword sects Qin Yu. He's demonic. After a brief shock, the true emperors fell silent. How terrifying would a demonic emperor realm sword cultivator be? They had never seen it before, but just the aura alone was enough to make their hearts palpitate. They had to kill him. Otherwise, if they allowed Qin Yu to go crazy, the world would fall into chaos. The imperial advisor said, "Don't worry, everyone. Heaven-splitting sword sex Qin Yu has long since violated the rules and will be punished by the heavens." He pointed at the blood-colored clouds above his head. "Today, the heavens' retribution will descend." Bai Feifei was well aware of Qin Yu's current situation. The heavens' retribution would really be triggered. Given Qin Yu's current state, he would die without a doubt if he faced the heavens' retribution head-on unless he used the fragment of the blazing sun. Once the fragment was used, his aura would be exposed. Then, the other holder of the blazing sun's fragment that was currently crossing the sea of chaos would be able to lock onto his aura. Death awaited him either way. "Qin Yu, you're going to die. If you don't wake up now, you'll be in a hopeless situation." Bai Feifei screamed. She suddenly thought of something. Qin Chi, Qin Chi, think about your sister. She's so pitiful. She's just found her brother. Do you want her to be all alone again? Niu Dingtian is taking care of her now, because of you. If you die, Qin Chi will definitely be in trouble. Qin Yu, you promised to take good care of Qin Chi. Are you going to go back on your word? It was effective. Qin Yu's blood-red eyes showed signs of struggle. A terrifying aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything began to fluctuate around him. The imperial tutor frowned slightly. No matter how he looked at it, a dead Qin Yu was the best outcome for the kingdom of Qin. He took a step forward. Swish! Niu Dingtian's figure blocked in front of him. "Imperial tutor, let's just watch." The imperial tutor's eyes turned cold. At this moment, Qin Yu exhaled and put down the mountain and river sword. His eyes were still red, but they were no longer as violent and crazed as before. They had only become colder. Qin Yu turned and locked his eyes on the imperial tutor. "Imperial tutor, what do you want to do?" The imperial tutor took a step back. "Sect Master Qin, you've reined in your horse at the precipice and escaped from the demonic trap. Congratulations." He cupped his hands. "I have other matters to attend to. Farewell." Swish! He took a step forward and disappeared. It wasn't that the imperial tutor feared Qin Yu, but since Qin Yu hadn't fallen into the demonic trap, it wouldn't be easy to kill him. The imperial tutor had always followed the principle of planning before taking action. He looked down on mindless killing. Of course, the imperial tutor had to admit that the Qin Yu today gave him a very strong feeling. Perhaps it was because Qin Yu had just broken free from the demonic trap, but his violent aura made the imperial tutor feel a strong threat. Niu Dingtian said in a low voice, "Qin Yu, are you all right?" Qin Yu said, "Thank you, Senior Niu." His eyes swept around. "Thank you, everyone. I'm fine now that you were able to rush over. I won't send you off. It's good that Sect Master Qin is fine. For us Emperor Realm cultivators, falling into the demonic trap is still very terrifying. We must be more careful in the future. Farewell." Swish! Swish! The true emperors left one after another. Qin Yu suddenly coughed. Blood spurted out from his nose and mouth. He bent down, but his terrifying aura didn't weaken in the slightest. He lifted a hand to stop Niu Dingtian from approaching. "Senior Niu, I will eventually suffer the wrath of the heavens. This is true. It is best if you stay away from me." With great difficulty, he stopped coughing. Qin Yu looked up. "I will ask Senior one more time. Please help me take good care of Qin Chi. Whoosh! With the cry of a sword, Qin shot into the skies, vanishing without a trace. Chapter 1785. Becoming a demon was becoming a demon. Once it happened, it would be beyond redemption. Qin Yu's consciousness had awakened, but he could not change this fact. Thus, he did not dare to stay any longer. He had to leave immediately. His blood-red eyes surged with bloodlust. "Bai Fei!" He bellowed. Swoosh! Bai Fei appeared beside him. "My lord, you've been demonized." Qin Yu growled through gritted teeth. "Tell me something I don't know." Bai Fei said, "A demonized person's consciousness will fall and be controlled by the demonic nature in their body, becoming a walking corpse that only knows how to kill and destroy. My lord, although you've awakened, as long as you're still demonized, your consciousness will fall sooner or later." "Continue." Beads of sweat appeared on Bai Fei's forehead. Let me think. Her eyes brightened. "I've got it. My lord, you can only refine the demonic nature in your body and tame it into your own state. I remember someone did it a long time ago. But refining the demonic nature requires the cultivation of a true emperor. Only by using one's own great Tao can one destroy it bit by bit." Qin Yu's eyes were crimson, glinting fiercely. "In other words, I need to become a true emperor." Bai Fei nodded. "Yes. Good." Qin Yu raised his sword and slashed through the sky. "Then I'll go fight for the true emperor realm." Swoosh! He stepped into it. West Wilderness, Jade Gate Pass. The fisherman who had snuck back quietly turned back into an inconspicuous vendor on the long street. He told the outside world that he had gone to visit a friend a few days ago. He said a few words to a few familiar stall owners and dropped the matter. Was it true? That's not important. The world isn't peaceful. Even in the great Qin Empire, many people disappear without a trace every year. Thus, he could not be a busybody. It was good enough that he could protect himself. Behind the stall, the fisherman curled up listlessly, leaning against the wall. At this moment, his body suddenly stiffened. The sun shone warmly on him. But at this moment, the fisherman did not feel the slightest bit of warmth. There was only endless coldness. Anger and fear appeared in his eyes. The fisherman took a deep breath and stood up. He looked up at the sky, hesitation flashing in his eyes. Gritting his teeth, the fisherman took a step forward and disappeared. In the next moment, when he appeared once more, he was at the peak of star-sifting mountain. "Lord Qin," looking at the scenery in front of him, the fisherman said in a low voice. Qin Yu turned around. His blood-red eyes caused the fisherman's complexion to change. Bedevilment. He had also sensed the commotion from before. However, the ancient remnant lineage had always been hated by everyone, and now they were being chased by everyone. He didn't want to join in on the fun. Of course, most importantly, the fisherman believed that the person who was chosen by that person wouldn't be easily harmed. The facts proved that his guess was correct. Qin Yu was still alive and well. But now why was he here? The fisherman secretly raised his guard. Qin Yu said, "Fisherman, let me ask you, where is the master of the Dongting court hiding?" The fisherman's complexion changed once more. He glared at Qin Yu. "My current state isn't too good, so I don't have much patience." Qin Yu stepped forwards. "Tell me, otherwise I can only use you as a substitute today." At this moment, as Qin Yu's gaze locked onto him, the fisherman felt a great fear rise in his heart. The aura of death enveloped him. He is deep in the Black Sea. He saw Qin Yu's lips curve up in a cold smile. The fisherman hurriedly said. Qin Yu nodded. "You better not be lying to me." He flicked his sleeves. Shua! Bai Fei appeared. Her eyes fell on the fisherman. "I have already locked onto his aura. No matter where he is, he won't be able to escape." The two of them turned and vanished from sight. A bitter smile appeared on the fisherman's face. He really wanted to know just who Qin Yu was. Why did he always have existences on the level of longevity by his side? Little Meaty was one. and this woman in front of him was clearly one as well, although the pressure she gave him couldn't compare to little Meaty. Longevity was still longevity. However, a long-lived species was a long-lived species. Even though it was incomplete, it was still a simple matter to lock onto his aura. The fisherman secretly rejoiced. He hadn't lied to Chinyu. Otherwise, what awaited him would have been an extremely terrifying fate. The master of the Dongting court. Although both sides were true sovereigns of the ancient remnant lineages, there was a saying of the human race that it was better for a fellow Taoist to die than for himself. Why would he die for the master of the Dongting court? That's right. In the eyes of the fisherman, the master of the Dongting court had already died. Being locked onto by Chinyu and also suppressed by longevity, how could he not die? Black Sea. Because the waters were extremely deep and the color was nearly black, it got its name. Within a radius of 100,000 miles, there were countless great aquatic monsters. It was called the Black Sea region. Rumors said that in the depths of the Black Sea, there was a Black Sea dragon palace. The palace master was a black flood dragon that had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Now he was already showing signs of transforming into a dragon and was extremely powerful. In truth, that black flood dragon had already become food for the master of the Dongting court, nourishing him. But to the outside world, the master of the dragon palace was still that black flood dragon. The master of the Dongting court had used a transformation technique to completely occupy the magpie's nest. To this day, no one had seen through him. Of course, to put it another way, everyone who had discovered the secret of the master of the Dongting court had already been killed. Those that survived weren't necessarily fools. Most of them had a tacit understanding or tacitly accepted this matter. After all, the Black Flood Dragon was still powerful, perhaps even stronger than before. The sphere of influence of the Dragon Palace had expanded several times than before. It had almost become the master of the entire Black Sea. All the subordinates of the Dragon Palace had also risen along with it. Of course, no one would do stupid things. Today, the inner palace of the Dragon Palace was closed. Previously, a large number of wine, delicacies, and beauties had been sent in. The subordinates of the Dragon Palace had long been aware of the temperament of their palace master. They all winked at him and envied him. TSK, TSK, our palace master was really living the life of an immortal. I heard that this time a princess of the Clam clan was offered to the palace master. It's true. I took a look at her from a distance. She's really like a person in a painting. Her beauty is not enough to describe her. I hope that when this princess was thrown out, she would still be alive, so that we can also enjoy ourselves. You don't want to live. How dare you say such nonsense? If the palace master hears about it, no one can save you. Don't be too nervous. This matter is an open secret. I heard that our palace master doesn't care about it at all. Outside the Dragon Palace, a group of water demons laughed. But in the next moment, the laughter came to an abrupt end. All the water demons widened their eyes, revealing horror and fear. Then their bodies instantly split apart. A massive amount of blood gushed out, dyeing the seawater red. An invisible force descended, separating the seawater. Qin Yu's figure appeared. He looked up at the Dragon Palace hidden deep under the water. Is it here? Swish! Bai Feifei's figure appeared. Qin Yu chuckled. Very good. He raised his hand and waved. Then let's start according to the plan. Bai Feifei stepped back and her figure disappeared. Then an invisible force descended, covering the entire underwater Dragon Palace, isolating the aura of this place from the outside world. Deep in the Dragon Palace, in the main hall, the lord of the Dongting Palace, who was enjoying himself, suddenly changed his expression. Who? He roared. He was holding a naked water demon beauty in his arms. But the aura that he had suddenly released shattered her into pieces. With screams, a large number of beauties fled in all directions. Bang! The door of the hall was smashed. Qin Yu strode in, holding the mountain and river sword. The sword blade was like blood, vibrating with terrifying killing intent. Chinyu, the lord of the Dongting Palace, screamed, "How did you know I was here? Did the fisherman tell you?" Chinyu nodded. "Yes." "Damn fisherman!" The lord of the Dongting Palace stomped his feet and cursed. "I'm not done with you." He stared at Chinyu. "What do you want to do?" Chinyu's lips curled up, revealing a cold smile. "Kill you." He raised his hand and slashed down with the mountain and river sword. The lord of the Dongting Palace's heart shrank. He was greatly frightened. "Chinyu, don't go too far. I'm not here today to join in the fun." With a low roar, he took a step back and retreated. Chinyu chased after him. "That's not important. What's important is that I'm going to kill you today." Rumble. There was a heaven-shaking explosion. With Chinyu as the boundary, the entire dragon palace was cut apart and turned into ruins. The casualties were heavy. As the sword fell, the blood in Chinyu's eyes became thicker. He smiled and raised his hand, slashing down for the second time. "Lord of the Dongting Palace, you can't escape." This was not just a joke. Bai Feifei's sealing of the Dragon Palace was not only to isolate the aura. The lord of the Dongting Palace soon realized this and became even more shocked and angry. "Chinyu, you're crazy. How dare you attack me? You're provoking the bloodline of the ancient survivors." Chinyu laughed. "So what?" The mountain and river sword slashed down. The horrible sword breath filled every inch of the space like a storm. The entire dragon palace had turned into ruins. The lord of the Dongting Palace dodged again and again, but the space for him to dodge was becoming smaller and smaller. "Chinyu," he roared furiously, "I'll fight you to the death." It turned out that a true emperor was really terrifying when he had the thought of fighting with his life. In particular, the opponent was the lord of the Dongting Palace, a powerful ancient survivor who had lived for a long time. Rumble. The bottom of the sea was boiling, setting off stormy waves. Countless undercurrents rushed in all directions. A giant frog appeared at the bottom of the sea. This was the real body of the lord of the Dongting Palace. It opened its mouth and swallowed. Endless seawater poured into it. It was extremely terrifying. It seemed like it was going to swallow the entire Black Sea. Chinyu was wrapped up by the seawater and pulled into the mouth of the giant frog. His blood-red eyes flashed with madness and ruthlessness. He did not resist at all. He let himself be wrapped up by the seawater and entered the mouth of the giant frog. His eyes suddenly fell into darkness. "Ha ha ha! Chinyu, you're too arrogant. My belly is not a place where you can come and go as you please. Today, I'll let you know what it means to refine the world with water and dissolve everything." The giant frog laughed wildly and spoke human language. It was like rolling thunder, exploding at the bottom of the sea. It turned over and lay on the ground on all fours. Its chest and abdomen kept rolling, making loud rumbling sounds. Chapter 1786. At this moment, the chest and abdomen of the giant frog were rolling like a drum. What was really terrifying was the turbulent seawater that was swallowed by the giant frog. It was like countless blades were cutting back and forth, trying to grind Chinyu into pieces. This was also where the confidence of the Lord of Dongting came from. Swallowing the sea was his innate divine ability, and as his cultivation and realm increased, its power would also increase exponentially. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that water could refine the world and dissolve everything. Even if it was a true emperor, as long as he was swallowed into its stomach, he would be killed bit by bit. Ha 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 ha. "Chinyu, you're courting death today. Die." The giant frog roared, and the tumbling of its chest and abdomen became even stronger. The waves were earth-shattering. But in fact, Chinyu's current situation was much better than what the Lord of Dongting had imagined. His talent was indeed powerful, but Chinyu had the mountain river sword in his hand, and the sword breath formed a small world. No matter how much the waves hit, they couldn't touch him at all. The reason why Qin had been silent and didn't attack was because he was waiting for an opportunity. One sword was going to decide the outcome and kill the Lord of Dongting. Boom! In the darkness, while tides raged about, blotting out the skies as they surrounded Qin. His eyes were as red as the sea, and the violent aura around him was becoming stronger and stronger. He was like a demon that walked out of hell. Suddenly, Qin raised his head, and a ferocious look flashed in his blood-red eyes. Now was the time. Boom! He raised the mountain river sword and slashed down. The raging waves were instantly cut open and then fell into a state of silence. Everything seemed to have been paused. The next moment, a painful cry was heard. There was a wound on the chest of the giant frog, and seawater gushed out. It was mixed with the blood of the giant frog, which also took away his life. Impossible! This is impossible! The giant frog howled in anger and fear. It tried its best to cover the wound, but it was destined to be in vain. Whoosh! A sword light flashed, and the giant frog's voice stopped. Its huge body fell backward. However, it was only natural that the true monarch would not be killed so easily. Lonely. With a scream, a giant golden frog shadow escapes from the dead body of the Lord of Dongting. It stares at Qin with resentment in its eyes. This phantom is the big prop of the Lord of Dongting. As long as his great Tao was not destroyed, he could pass through the long years of slumber and reform his body once more, returning from death. Qin, the Lord of Dongting roars, "I will come back! I will definitely come back!" By Fei, Qin roared. Buman invisible force suddenly descends like a towering mountain. The big prop of the Lord of Dongting appears and directly suppresses it in place, forcefully severing its connection with the heavens and earth. No, impossible. How could my great way be suppressed? The Lord of Dongting widened his eyes. Qin, what did you do? No one could imagine that an Emperor Realm cultivator would be able to command a longevity cultivator. Qin took a step forward, the mountain and river sword in his hand. The surface of the sword vibrated with a terrifying, baleful aura. Pitch black and scarlet intertwined. The sword stabs out, and the big prop that pierced through the Lord of Dongting appears. The giant golden frog's eyes widen, and its face is full of fear and despair. Boom! Its body directly explodes. Qin lips curls into a cold smile. He raises his hand and points between his eyebrows. Open! The phantom of a vortex instantly appears. Looking down, one can vaguely see the sun and moon rotating in this vortex. Rumble, a low roar comes from the vortex, and at the same time, it releases an incomparably powerful, plundering power. On the surface of every golden fragment, the phantom of the Lord of Dongting appears. His face is full of fear as he looks at Qin and loudly begs for mercy. Qin, let me go, please let me go. But all of this is clearly in vain. All the golden fragments are devoured by the vortex in the blink of an eye. Swished by Fei's figure appears in front of him. She looks at Qin with a solemn expression. My lord, please begin. I will protect you. Qin closes his eyes and sits cross-legged. The next moment, his consciousness enters the soul space. At this moment, the purple sun and blue moon shine explosively, rising in the east and setting in the west. They turn into a sun and moon vortex. And within this vortex, countless golden fragments of the great Tao are sucked in. As the vortex revolves, the fragments rub against each other, making crackling sounds. Tiny golden particles constantly vibrate and then float out from the vortex. With just a glance, Qin knows that this is the pure, great Tao strength obtained from the Lord of Dongting after the sun and moon vortexes are refined. Qin closes his eyes. Bang! A swallowing power suddenly erupts from within his body. Bright moon star art revolves with all its strength. Toting skill, could it be that when little Meaty was speaking nonsense, she had already predicted this day? Otherwise, it would be hard to believe that this is just a coincidence. This thought rapidly turns in his mind before he immediately suppresses it, because there isn't much time left for Chinyu. If he wants to rid himself of the threat of becoming demonic, he must break into the true sovereign realm as soon as possible. Once his consciousness falls, perhaps Chinyu will never have the chance to wake up again. The sun and moon vortexes can indeed refine the great Tao and seize its strength for its own use. But the speed is a bit too slow. It isn't that it is slow, but that Chinyu doesn't have the time to continue waiting. He lifts his hand and grasps it. Shwa! The mountain river sword unexpectedly appears in Chinyu's soul space, grasped in his hand. Go! With a shout, the mountain river sword howls out, rushing into the sun and moon vortexes. Boom! Boundless sword aura erupts, slashing at the great Tao fragment. The movement of the whirlpool itself suddenly became violent, rumbling like a raging sea. More and more golden grains fly out from the vortex. It's working. In the outside world, Bai Feifei looks at Chinyu and subconsciously lets out a long breath. He really has guts to charge into the sun and moon vortexes on a sword. If the mountain river sword is damaged, Chinyu will be the first to suffer. If he suffers a backlash with his current condition, it would be hard for him not to become demonic. He really dares. Luckily, Chinyu has succeeded. With the addition of the mountain river sword, the speed at which he refines the great Tao has risen. But the danger hasn't passed. On the contrary, with Chinyu's current condition, it isn't difficult for him to kill the Lord of Dongting. In Bai Feifei's eyes, this is the most dangerous time, because Chinyu, who should be punished by the heavens, has now become demonic. And will the heavens and earth allow him to break free from his demonic state? Or should I seize this opportunity to kill him? Bai Feifei looks up, her gaze piercing through the water of the Black Sea and landing on the sky. Scarlet blood is gushing out and accumulating, more and more, thicker and thicker, making one feel uneasy and fearful. That's the aura of the heavens. Bai Feifei's heart sank. It seems that the heavens and earth itself have made a decision. This is the worst possible outcome. But the situation has come to this, and she has no other choice. Only if Chinyu survives will she have a future. Otherwise, what awaits her is the fate of being separated and suppressed again. Bai Feifei grits her teeth, her expression resolute. A long-lived species that encountered the heavens' retribution is destined to meet a tragic end. And Chinyu is the only hope she has after waiting for countless years. Bai Feifei will not give up. So what if it's the heavens' retribution? It's not like I didn't experience it myself back then. At most, I'll taste it again. This time, the taste of the heavens' retribution is to buy time for Chinyu. Once he succeeds, his predicament will be easily resolved. Of course, there is another important reason why Bai Feifei made the decision to help Chinyu resist the heavens' retribution. The blazing sun's fragment. In order to hide himself, Chinyu chose to conceal the blazing sun's fragment that he wields. But when danger comes, when death is right in front of him, how can he hide? And once he uses the blazing sun's fragment, what can the heavens' retribution do? Even if it's just a fragment, and it's not complete, a blazing sun is a blazing sun, above the heavens and the myriad worlds. In any case, it's not a hopeless situation yet. But Bai Feifei still hoped that Chinyu will not let her down, and not use the blazing sun's fragment, his final trump card. Otherwise, he will be targeted by the pursuers from across worlds. Even if he can survive today, it will be of no use. In the end, he will not be able to escape death. Chinyu, you have to give it your all. Heaven-plucking sect. Chinyu's face was ashen, and he gritted his teeth. Again. At this moment, he was filled with resentment, and wished he could roar at the heavens. Chinyu, who the hell are you? An existence like the true emperor stands at the peak of the world, but in front of Chinyu, he's just something to fill his stomach. Killing a great Tao and seizing its power to strengthen himself was already very excessive. But what's even more excessive was that after such a short period of time, he actually killed another great Tao. The true emperor has become a leak. This is simply preposterous. At this moment, the Ashen Qin Yu's heart was filled with despair. He finally came to a conclusion. In this lifetime, he probably would not have a chance to turn things around in front of Qin Yu. Whether he was angry or sad, he still had to do what he had to do. Otherwise, a single thought from Qin Yu would be enough to make him suffer. Thus, under the surprised and incredulous gazes of the entire heaven-pulling sect, Qin Yu once again announced that he would enter seclusion. The heavens bless my heaven-pulling sect. With such a heaven-gifted talent, the heaven-pulling sect will not have to worry about prosperity. If the ancestors in the underworld know of this, they will be happy. On this day, the entire heaven-pulling sect rejoiced. On the 13th floor, Li Ruhua immediately felt the uncontrollable changes in her body. Her strength was increasing. In an instant, she sensed Qin Yu's aura. It really is him. Biting her lip, Li Ruhua had a complicated look in her eyes. She stood up. Master, disciple is not feeling well. I will leave early today, but you can go. Li Ruhua turned and bid her farewells. She hurried back to her residence and activated all the spells, isolating her aura. At this time, she didn't notice that a sharp light flashed in the eyes that fell on her body. Today's lesson ends here. Go back and cultivate. Yes, master. The disciples respectfully bowed and left. The 9th floor master stood up and stepped out. In the next moment, he appeared on the 13th floor. 9th floor master, what's the matter? Across from him, a voice came from a mass of light. The 9th floor master cupped his hands together and said, Floor master, Li Ruhua's aura has changed. The light fluctuated. After several breaths of time, it gradually calmed down. I understand. The 9th floor master nodded and left. A deep voice came from the light. So it was like this. Heaven-splitting sword sex Qin Yu. Just who are you? Shua. A person walked out from the light. However, the space around him was rapidly shaking within an extremely small range, forming distortions that wrapped around him, making it impossible to see him clearly. But without a doubt, this was the true master of the 13th floor, the one who wielded the highest authority. The floor master flicked his sleeves, and a screen of light appeared in front of him. Above the endless black sea, the sky was crimson, suppressive and terrifying. Heavenly Retribution. Chapter 1787. The Tower Master wasn't the only one who noticed the heavenly retribution. On the contrary, such a huge commotion was felt by all the true sovereigns in this world. The Central Wasteland region had to abide by the agreement with the Great Qin. Emperor realm cultivators couldn't cross borders. Therefore, they had been extinct in the Central Wasteland, except under special circumstances. But the agreement didn't apply to the true emperors from the Central Wasteland. Even the Great Qin Empire had to acquiesce. They had the right to descend anywhere with a single thought. This was the status and respect that true emperors deserved. Even the Great Qin had to show them respect. The heavenly retribution's aura was especially eye-catching to the true emperors. Moreover, everyone knew that there was someone who would be punished by the heavenly retribution. Heaven-splitting sword sect, Qin Yu, the only emperor realm sword cultivator in the world. He had killed a clan leader and destroyed that clan. There were even rumors that the reason Qin Yu was punished by the heavenly retribution was related to the secret of immortality. This was enough to stir one's heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! The space flickered and one figure after another appeared out of thin air. But this time the true emperors had chosen to descend with their projections instead of their real bodies. The reason was simple. No one wanted to get into trouble. The heavenly retribution. Even a true emperor would be in trouble if they were offended. Projections were safer. Even if there was a problem, they could just disperse and lose some cultivation. It wasn't serious. Of course, there was another reason. No one dared to make the first move in the current situation. This was also the reason why, after the true emperors descended, they remained silent and only watched from afar. They did not get close at all. This time, it was different from when Qin Yu was possessed. The heavenly retribution was coming. Qin Yu was dead. It wasn't too late to do anything after his death. Why risk going against the heavenly retribution? Niu Dingtian was among them. He was also a projection. He looked up at the sky that was as red as a sea of blood. His heart was heavy. He had thought that Qin Yu would find a way to get out of danger after he left. It seemed that he had thought too much. After all, he was possessed. Today, Qin Yu wouldn't be able to escape. The imperial tutor had his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with hesitation. He didn't know how to make a decision. Of course, his hesitation wasn't related to Qin Yu's safety. It was something that would happen after he was punished by the heavenly retribution and died. Should he take the risk? Long-lived species, eternal realm. It was so close that it seemed to be just one step away. However, this small gap was sometimes a natural chasm that blocked countless people outside, making it impossible for them to take that step. An undying being. They might seem powerful, but they could also live forever, becoming existences that coexisted with the world. However, this kind of coexistence only allowed them to live. They would never have the chance to break through the bottleneck and transform into a long-lived species. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Nation Master's eyes returned to calmness. He decided to wait and see the situation clearly before deciding whether or not to make a move. Today, the world's true emperors were almost all gathered. Once they truly erupted, the struggle over the long life type's ruined body would inevitably lead to a great battle. However, the imperial tutor was not afraid. Of course, his own strength was one thing, but more importantly, His Majesty was watching. It had been many years since His Majesty had made a move, but the imperial advisor had never doubted his strength. The nation master even guessed that His Majesty already had the strength comparable to a long-lived species. After all, the Joss flame power gathered in the Great Qin Empire could allow His Majesty to possess the power of the Eternal Realm before reaching the Eternal Realm. While Niu Dingtian and the imperial advisor were thinking, the others did not stop thinking. The air was still quiet. No one spoke, but undercurrents were already surging. The true emperors all had their own thoughts. However, there was one thing that they all agreed on. Qin Yu was finished. Bai Feifei also felt that Qin Yu was finished, because even though she had risked using the Mountain River Sword, it was still very difficult to completely refine the great Tao of the Dongting Lord. And Qin Yu was running out of time. Enter the demons were fine. Their will was strong enough. No matter how the demonic thoughts attacked their minds, they could still hold on. But the heavenly retribution was really coming. Bai Feifei could already smell the familiar blood and brutality. It was the will of the world, and it had an attribute that could not be resisted. Otherwise, there would be no way to suppress the long-lived species. Of course, Bai Feifei did not have the confidence to resist the heavenly retribution. Otherwise, she would not have ended up like this. Back when she was unharmed, this was the outcome, let alone today. But she had no choice. She could only brace herself and hold on for as long as she could. Qin Yu! Faster, faster! Otherwise, we are really finished. Across from her, Qin Yu sat cross-legged. The surface of his body was like the bottom of a dried-up river with countless fine cracks. Traces of blood seeped out, soaking his robe. This was because refining the great Tao with all his strength had exceeded the limits of his body. He had done his best. In his soul space, the sun and moon vortexes roared and revolved. The mountain river soared, slashed out. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound echoed in all directions. Qin, you could feel the pressure from the outside. The aura of the heavenly retribution was like a sword hanging above his head. It would slash down at any moment. Hurry! 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 Qin Yu fiercely opened his eyes. a blood-red color boiling within them. Roar! A red shadow appeared behind him. It roared and bared its fangs and claws, staring at Chinyu with greed in its eyes. This was a demonic thought. It could not wait to devour Chinyu's consciousness and control his soul. Rumble! Above the black sea, in the blood-red sky, thunder suddenly sounded. Swish! All the true emperors looked up at the same time. Even if it was just a projection, one could clearly feel the seriousness in their hearts. The heavenly retribution had arrived. Crack! Just as this thought crossed the minds of the true emperors, a crimson bolt of lightning fell from the clouds. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and turned pitch black. Below, the black water of the black sea evaporated and disappeared before it could even touch the blood-red lightning. It was as if someone had touched off a part of the sea with a finger, revealing an empty area that ran through the sea. It went straight to the bottom. A faint golden layer appeared in Bai Feifei's eyes. Her entire body instantly became illusory. She raised her hand and was about to punch, but at this moment, a sigh suddenly sounded in her ear. It was lazy and tired, but also full of resentment. Chinyu, you little bastard. Provoking you was really my worst decision. I can't even sleep well. Bai Feifei's body suddenly stiffened. At this moment, she felt that she had been completely seen through by gaze. From inside to outside, there was no longer any secret. Her entire being was exposed. TSK, you're quite fair, and you really haven't been eaten by a man before. A chuckle suddenly sounded in her ear. Bai Feifei could even feel the warm breath on her neck. This made her even more frightened, so much so that her entire body was like a block of wood, completely frozen on the spot. Who was it? Bai Feifei realized that she could not sense anything before the other party spoke. The more she thought about it, the more terrified she felt. Her face turned pale. Little girl, don't be afraid. I have no time to trouble you. The heavenly retribution. Chinyu is really as good as always stirring up trouble. In the future, stay by my side and help me keep an eye on him. Don't stir up trouble so easily. The blood-red lightning arrived. Like a long spear, it instantly pierced through space and pierced into the bottom of the Black Sea. But at this moment, a shocking scene appeared before their eyes. They saw that as that terrifying blood-red thunder approached Chinyu, it shattered and disintegrated without warning. The blood-red fragments were like some kind of ice crystal, as if some kind of power had frozen, suppressed, and shattered at the moment the heavenly retribution arrived. Then it disappeared. That's right, it completely disappeared, as if the previous scene was just an illusion. The heavenly retribution had never appeared before, but Bai Feifei knew very well that this was not an illusion. The heavenly retribution had arrived, blasting towards Chinyu. But before the blood-red lightning could erupt with even the slightest bit of power, it was killed. And the one who had killed it was without a doubt the owner of the voice just now. Bai Feifei felt like she was going crazy. Chinyu, just how many cards did he have left? And why were each of these cards more terrifying than the last? There was no need to talk about the fragments of the blazing sun. She had only sensed them from afar, and her mind had already trembled. She did not dare to have any thoughts of resisting. But now, the owner of the voice gave Bai Feifei a feeling that was even more terrifying. Just now, when the other party had breathed into her ear, she even had a peerlessly horrifying feeling. That was, the other party only needed to blow, and she would be consigned to eternal damnation. It's done. Just a small matter, and you want to ruin my good dreams. You really deserve a beating. There was a slap, as if someone had slapped Chinyu on the head. Little girl, don't forget what I just reminded you. Look after him in the future. I'm tired, so I'm leaving first. Swish! The terrifying, oppressive aura instantly disappeared. Puff! Puff! Bai Feifei gasped for breath, her pores open and cold sweat dripping down her back. She looked up, looking at the passage that pierced through the sea. With a loud roar, it instantly disappeared. And with it, the crimson clouds above the Black Sea that looked like a pool of blood also disappeared. The heavenly retribution was gone. Or, to be more precise, it had been forcefully scattered by someone. Gulp! Bai Feifei swallowed and respectfully bowed. As you command. She did not know the other party's identity, but there was no doubt that he was a card in Qin Yu's hand. A super trump card. Bai Feifei looked at Qin Yu. At this time, she could not help but feel a bit of admiration. This fellow had hidden himself too deeply, and at this time, above the Black Sea, far away from the heavenly retribution, the true emperors waiting for an opportunity were also completely dumbfounded. That was it. Not only was the sound of the rain loud and the thunder small, but even after roaring hoarsely for a long time, in the end, not a single drop of rain fell. That blood-red thunderbolt had ferociously charged into the sea, with a ruthless attitude that could kill gods and Buddhas in its way. And this was the result? To say that it was a silver spear and a wax stick was an insult to wax sticks. There was an unfathomable silence. Cough! I still have matters to attend to. Goodbye. A true emperor projection turned and left, disappearing directly. Let's go together. Another true emperor disappeared. This is the heavenly retribution. With a sigh, another 2 true emperors left. No one was stupid. Through the appearance, they could see that Qin Yu of the heaven-splitting swordsmanship sect was not to be trifled with. No matter how he did it, not even the heavenly retribution could kill him. In fact, it could even be said that he was directly killed. If it were them, would they have ended up well? Stop messing around. Then why didn't they leave? If they stayed, they would be hated by others. Whoosh! Niu Dingtian let out a long breath and laughed. It seems that today's trip is for nothing. Sect Master Qin really likes to torment people. He turned and directly left. The imperial scholar looked deeply at the place where the heavenly retribution blood thunder had descended. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he absolutely would not have believed it. But without a doubt, this was the truth. With a deep breath, the imperial scholar turned and left. This Qin Yu definitely had a secret on his body, and this secret made the imperial scholar feel threatened. Perhaps he could suggest to His Majesty to use thunderous methods to directly kill him. Otherwise, there might be changes. It had to be known that Qin Yu did not have a good relationship with the Qin Empire. Underwater. Shua. Qin Yu opened his eyes. A strange aura spread out from his body. The crimson color rapidly faded, leaving only a tiny bit hidden in the depths of his eyes. It was like in his black pupils there was a faint circle of blood-red pupils. Chapter 1788. He broke through. Of course, they were not true sovereigns. Instead, they were half-sovereigns who had crossed the celestial realm and had yet to reach the 9 heavens. However, half-martial monarchs still had the protection of the great Tao, temporarily suppressing the invasion of the demonic sense. With a silent roar, the demonic phantom behind Qin Yu rapidly vanished from sight. But it did not disappear. Just like the faint circle of blood in Qin Yu's eyes, it remained in his body. Bai Feifei, take a good look at my current state. He waited for a while, but there was no response. Qin Yu frowned. Raising his head, he realized that Bai Feifei was in a daze. Bai Feifei. Ah, what did you say? She finally regained her senses. Qin Yu looked at her. What happened? There was clearly something wrong with this woman. Bai Feifei's lips twitched. Don't you know what's going on? She looked at Qin Yu, hesitated for a moment, and then said, My lord, heavenly retribution descended just now, but someone helped you break it. Who? I didn't see her. I only heard her voice, and then the sky execution disappeared. Bai Feifei swore. She was still feeling a little dizzy as she spoke. Heavenly punishment. That was heavenly punishment. In this world, no one knew better than her how terrifying the heavenly retribution was. That was truly a power that couldn't be contended against. Even if it was a long-lived species, they would still be forcibly split apart and suppressed. Qin Yu thought for several breaths of time. A woman? Bai Feifei nodded vigorously. Qin Yu let out a long breath. That basically confirmed everything. It couldn't be Meaty. Bai Feifei recognized her, and it definitely couldn't be the little blue lamp. First, it had already hidden itself away, and second, it wouldn't be some big boss dressed in women's clothing. There was only one possibility left. Master Juggernaut. In the past, through Meaty's attitude, Qin Yu was able to determine that His Excellency ruler was no ordinary person. And now, this judgment had been verified. How could a mere sovereign realm cultivator defeat the heavenly punishment that could even suppress a longevity seed? What a joke, saying it was simply like an ant trying to shake the heavens. However, it was clear that the Lord Ruler had succeeded. Not only that, but Bai Feifei's reaction showed that she was clearly shocked. He hadn't seen her, only heard her voice. There was no need to say anything else. Just this description alone was enough to show how powerful the hegemon was. In the blink of an eye, heavenly punishment was shattered. Thus, there was a high probability that there was a difference between sovereigns. It was the same title, but it was a completely different concept. Who exactly was she? Qin Yu discovered that there were far too many mysteries around him. Without mentioning the little blue lamp, he had risked his life to obtain it. But now that he thought about it, he felt that he had been too lucky. After all, it was a fragment of the blazing sun. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like it had been arranged to be given to him. There was also little Meaty. She was an existence hidden in space-time, the most powerful being among the long-lived species. Why did she treat him differently? It was true that he was handsome, but it was definitely not the answer. There was also the matter of Her Excellency ruler. Why did she help Qin Yu? Now, it could be confirmed that she was also a real big shot. Then he thought about the process of him becoming the luck spirit of the world. Clearly, the Azure Dragon's spirit had been waiting for him all along. There must be another reason for this. Qin Yu rubbed his temples and let out a deep breath. I understand. Bai Feifei looked at the troubled Qin Yu, thought for a moment, then said, My lord, I wonder who that is. Qin Yu glanced at her. I do not know either. This was the truth. As for a sovereign, Her Excellency, even he was confused. But in Bai Feifei's ears, Qin Yu had gone too far. He didn't have the slightest bit of sincerity. A perfunctory response was a perfunctory response, but he went so far. Did he not know? Did he not know that she would save him? Did he really think that there were so many kind-hearted people in this world? Humph, humph. Those big shots weren't either. They just sat around doing nothing all day. But right now, she didn't dare to say anything. Qin Yu had hidden himself far too deeply. Who knew what other cards he had in his hands? She couldn't provoke him. Cough, my lord. You truly have a flood of good fortune. There are people protecting you everywhere. In the future, you will surely become a blazing sun. She began to flatter him, because there was at least one thing that Bai Feifei was certain of. In the future, she would hold on to Qin Yu's thigh, which didn't seem too thick right now. Whether she would be able to eat and drink well in the future would all depend on him. Qin Yu guessed her thoughts. All right, let's not talk about this for now. Take a closer look at my current state. Yes. Bai Feifei earnestly looked at Qin Yu, a look of praise on her face. My lord is truly talented. At the half-step sovereign realm, you were able to suppress the invasion of the demonic sense. There won't be any problems for the time being. However, the demonic sense hasn't disappeared. My lord, you haven't been able to truly refine it, so you still need to be careful to avoid giving the demonic sense a chance to take advantage of you. Qin Yu nodded. At this time, his heart shrank and he became extremely vigilant. Something had happened. Qin Yu didn't know what it was, but without a doubt, it was related to him. At the same time, the great Qin Empire, imperial capital Xianying. Within the imperial palace, the imperial tutor's face was shaken. Just now, he had explained his worries to His Majesty and requested for His Majesty to personally kill the heaven-splitting, sword-sex Qin Yu. Although this request was made by the imperial tutor himself, he never imagined that His Majesty's reaction would be so great. The heaven-splitting sword-sex Qin Yu truly deserves to die. Emperor Qin slowly spoke from his throne. He stood up. Bang! A terrifying aura instantly shot into the skies. The skies above Xianying City instantly changed. Countless cultivators widened their eyes in amazement as they looked towards the imperial palace. What happened? The wrath of the emperor. It's the wrath of the emperor. His Majesty Emperor Qin is about to make a move. Countless people cried out in alarm. Fear and dread appeared on their faces. No one knew just what had happened that could cause Emperor Qin's killing intent to erupt. But without a doubt, it was a heaven-shaking event. Your Majesty. The imperial tutor revealed a bewildered expression. Then he seemed to suddenly think of something. It's him. Could it be him? Emperor Qin nodded. The imperial tutor's guess is correct. My premonition has come true today. He lifted a leg and stepped forwards. Bang! The entire imperial palace trembled. Emperor Qin had already left. In the next moment, space shattered and Emperor Qin stepped out. Below him was a boundless sea as black as ink. The imperial tutor's figure appeared beside him. Your Majesty, Qin Yu is strong and his methods are extremely strange. Not even heavenly retribution can harm him in the least. Emperor Qin had no expression. If I attack, he will die without a doubt. With a flick of his sleeves, the entire black sea seemed to be stirred up by strong winds. Endless seawater was parted, and with a heaven-shaking rumble, the seabed was revealed. Qin Yu looked up, and his heart sank. Great Qin, imperial tutor. The person beside him seemed to have an even higher status, and his cultivation was immeasurably formidable. This person's identity was obvious. He was the master of the Great Qin Empire, Emperor Qin. This was the first time he had seen the emperor of the Great Qin Empire, but he could clearly feel that the killing intent he emitted was so thick that it was almost tangible. He had found the reason for his sudden fear just now. But why? Although Qin Yu didn't have a good relationship with the Great Qin Empire, it wasn't to the point where Emperor Qin would personally attack and kill him. An intense aura of crisis crazily invaded his mind. Bai Feifei said, "My lord, be careful. Emperor Qin is the strongest existence in the present world, in the central, desolate territory. He is strong enough to fight with the long-lived beings." When translated, these words meant that neither of them were a match for him, so he should hurry up and use his trump cards. As long as that person attacked, Emperor Qin wouldn't be a threat. But the problem was that Qin Yu didn't feel any fluctuations of aura. In other words, His Excellency ruler wouldn't interfere in today's matters. Would he have to deal with it himself? Although he was at the half-step sovereign realm and his strength had greatly increased, Emperor Qin was too strong. Qin, you didn't have any confidence. Bang! With a loud explosion, an invisible strength arrived. It was like the heavens were collapsing and the earth was sinking, wanting to destroy all things. Qin, you lifted his hand. With a sword cry, the mountain and river sword appeared in his hand. As if it could feel Qin Yu's current situation, it cried out on its own. He lifted his hand and slashed out. A terrifying sword aura shot into the heavens, colliding with the descending strength. Bang! Beneath Qin Yu, the seabed instantly exploded, forming a terrifying pit. He stood at the bottom of the pit. Cracks appeared, spreading out in all directions. Cough, cough! Qin Yu violently coughed, blood leaking out from his mouth and nose. Emperor Qin was just this terrifying. As Bai Feifei had said, he was the strongest in the present world without a doubt. The imperial scholar's heart shook. Qin Yu's strength had surpassed his expectations. He was actually able to forcefully resist His Majesty's strike. But the stronger he was, the more he had to die. If His Majesty attacked today, he wouldn't give him any chance to make a comeback. Emperor Qin was expressionless, He lifted his hand and pressed down. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire Black Sea began to boil. Every single drop exploded, destroyed by terrifying power. Then, in the midst of the explosion, an even more terrifying destructive strength was released. It swept out in all directions, instantly wrapping Chinyu within. With a sword cry, countless sword auras erupted. A small world was constructed, protecting Chinyu within. But now, under the impact of the destructive strength, the sword breath small world was rapidly deforming and distorting. Sword auras broke apart, disintegrated, and disappeared. The eruption of the mountain and river sword was simply not enough to make up for the speed at which the sword breath was being consumed. It couldn't resist. Bai Fei screamed, "My lord, we've done our best. Hurry and ask that person behind you to help. Otherwise it will be too late." "Qin, you clenched his teeth. She won't help." Bai Fei was dumbfounded. She didn't ask why, because at this time, Qin wouldn't joke around with life and death. Could it be because she had already helped once? But what was the truth? Bai Fei was no longer in the mood to consider it. "My lord, bear with it, bear with it. Don't use the blazing sun fragment for now. This was the last resort, the last resort. Once it erupted, even if he could survive, he would be sentenced to death." Qin stuffily coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought that this woman, Bai Fei, really liked to spout nonsense. If he hadn't endured it, would he have been beaten to the point of spitting out blood? But if this continued, he really wouldn't be able to hold on. Moreover, he couldn't see any turning point. In today's situation, Emperor Qin had personally arrived to suppress and kill him. Who would dare to interfere? Chapter 1789. The Middle Wilderness shook. After countless years, the Qin Emperor attacked once again. All the true emperors in the world couldn't help but reveal solemn expressions. Whether they were willing or not, some memories of the past appeared in their minds. Apart from being shocked, they also felt a bit lucky. Lucky that the Qin Emperor attacked today and his target wasn't them. Heaven's splitting sword sect, Qin. On this day, he was undoubtedly the person who could attract the attention of the world the most. After several life and death situations, would Qin be able to survive this time? Normally, if the Qin Emperor attacked, he would die without a doubt. The true emperors didn't doubt this at all. But Qin wasn't a person that could be summed up with common sense. He was unharmed even under the heavenly retribution. He was unfathomable. Now, the true emperors no longer doubted that Qin had the secret of immortality. The reason was simple. Blocking the heavenly retribution was one of the reasons. Now that the Qin Emperor attacked, it was the most direct and powerful evidence. After all, if it wasn't for the secret of immortality, why would the Qin Emperor attack? This was a simple logic. But in reality, the true emperors had guessed wrong. The Qin Emperor attacking to kill Qin had nothing to do with immortality. It was because he knew about the heavenly retribution. He didn't want to be tainted by it at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until today. He would have done it himself. The Qin Emperor wanted to kill Qin for the sake of the Qin Empire, for the continuation of the Qin Empire. And Qin was called Qin, so he had to die. The imperial teacher knew everything, so he didn't do anything. Because killing Qin could only be done by His Majesty alone. But at this moment, the imperial teacher suddenly frowned. Confusion and shock appeared in the depths of his eyes. The Qin Emperor stopped attacking. He looked up. The space in front of him silently parted and a figure walked out. The faint vibrations around him caused the space to distort, hiding him inside. "Tower Master, I need an explanation." At this moment, the person who had descended was none other than the 13th Tower's Tower Master. And in the entire world, he was probably the only one who dared to stand in front of the Qin Emperor in this situation. The 13th Tower was an immortal land. It transcended the world and never participated in the internal conflicts of the Middle Wilderness. If the Qin Emperor's sudden attack shook the Middle Wilderness, Then the arrival of the Tower Master of the 13th Tower was an unprecedented earthquake. The Tower Master's existence was like the sun, moon, and stars above his head. He was eternal but could not be touched. And today he was right in front of them. Qin Sovereign, Qin Yu isn't the person you are looking for. Give him a chance to live. Tower Master, do you insist on this? Yes. The Qin Emperor remained silent. The world fell into silence. At this moment, even the true emperors couldn't help but break out in cold sweat when they sensed the quietness of the place. If the two sides couldn't come to an agreement, a war would break out between the great Qin Empire and the 13th Tower. The impact it would cause would far exceed their imaginations. None of them could remain unscathed and would inevitably be drawn into it. The people were plunged into misery and suffering, and the catastrophe of the world was right before their eyes. The imperial advisor took a deep breath and bowed. Your Majesty, he broke the silence, causing the extremely tense atmosphere to slightly ease. Qin Huang was expressionless. We need an answer. The brothel master said, I will hand it over to the Qin Emperor. Both sides took a step back. Shua, the Qin Emperor, turned around and left. The imperial advisor bowed, respectfully, and left. An earth-shattering battle ended just like that. The true emperors who sensed the area subconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. In the Heavenly Bull region, Niu Dingtian wiped his cold sweat and bitterly smiled. He really felt that Qin Yu was truly unfathomable. Even the brothel master had personally stopped the Qin Emperor for him. However, this wasn't necessarily a good thing. Brothel master Niu Dingtian shook his head and suppressed his thoughts. He didn't want the Heavenly Bull region to be targeted by the 13th Tower. That would mean death, and he would be the one to die. The brothel master turned around. Qin, you also looked at him, and their eyes met. Sect Master Qin, I saved your life. Aren't you going to thank me? Qin Yu said, If I thank you, will the brothel master let me go? The brothel master shook his head. No. Qin Yu said, So, there is no need for me to thank you. Sect Master Qin is a wonderful person. The brothel master stretched out his hand. Please. Qin Yu said, Please lead the way. Shua. Shua. The two figures disappeared one after another. Rumble, rumble. In the next moment, the entire Black Sea exploded. Endless water vapor rose into the air, revealing the dry seabed. A moment later, when everything returned to silence, the darkness had already vanished. On the earth, there was now a 100,000-mile canyon. All life had been extinguished, and this was the result of the confrontation between Qin Emperor and the brothel master. They hadn't done anything yet, but they had already begun to fight. Invisible auras collided, destroying everything here. It was unknown how many aquatic life forms died here. This was the sorrow of the weak. It wasn't intentionally targeted, but they were simply too weak. They were so weak that if some powerful existence approached them, they would die. They were worthless, and no one would remember them. No one would remember this hatred. In the skies, the clouds were the stairs. It was the 13th Tower. At almost the same time, space quietly shook. The brothel master and Qin Yu walked out. The surrounding cultivators of the 13th Tower all bowed. The brothel master flicked his sleeves, and they turned to leave. Soon, there were only two people left on this cloud platform. Qin Yu's eyes swept around. His thoughts stirred, and he understood. This place was the same as the Star Sea Grotto. It was a small world. It seemed to float in the skies, but it was actually isolated from the outside world. Without permission, it was difficult to enter or exit. That race's Star River Grotto can be called unique in the present world. After Sect Master Qin obtains it, if you can make good use of it, it will be your foundation. The brothel master sat down and said in a soft voice, Qin Yu said, If the brothel master is willing, I am willing to offer up the Star River Grotto. The brothel master smiled. Sect Master Qin, you seem to have little trust in me. Yu said, I am only well aware that everything in this world requires a price. He lifted a hand and pointed to himself. For instance, today the brothel master helped me. While I am grateful, I can't help but feel restless. I wonder what the brothel master wishes to obtain. The brothel master flipped his sleeves. A tea set appeared in front of the two people. Steam rose up from it. Sect Master Chin, please drink some tea. He picked it up and drank 2 sips. He didn't directly answer Chin Yu's question. Instead, he said, Sect Master Chin must be puzzled as to why the Qin Emperor tried to kill you without any warning. Yes. Can the brothel master dispel my doubts? Of course. The brothel master faintly smiled. In truth, the reason is very simple. Many years ago, the Qin Emperor had a stroke of insight and made a note for himself. It was a true saying, the one who causes chaos in the Qin is also Qin. Qin Yu frowned. He really didn't think the truth would be like this. What did this have to do with anything? Just because of these words, he had been targeted by the Qin Emperor, and he had almost died under the Qin Emperor's hands. How laughable! But now, Qin Yu couldn't laugh. It was clear that the Qin Emperor really did regard him as the one who caused chaos in the Qin. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He cupped his hands together and said, Thank you, brothel master. The brothel master said, This is only a show of my sincerity. I hope that Sect Master Qin believes that the 13th floor has no ill intentions towards you. What does the brothel master need me to do? You may speak. I want to live forever. Direct, straightforward, and to the point. On the cloud platform, there was a brief silence. Qin Yu slowly said, Is the brothel master not afraid of heavenly retribution? I am afraid. The brothel master lifted a hand and pointed. That is why I need Sect Master Qin to step forward. He understood. To put it simply, you resist the lightning, and I'll pluck the fruit. The brothel master of the 13th floor had described his actions in such a calm and tranquil manner. It was also extraordinary, but Qin Yu knew that he had no other choice. Otherwise, the Qin Emperor could kill him, and so could the brothel master. The two were evenly matched. According to Bai Fei, an emperor realm cultivator possessed a portion of the power of the eternal realm. They were invincible in the present age. Immortal existences. All right, Qin Yu agreed immediately. After recognizing his own position and judging the situation, there was no need to drag things out. It was meaningless and a waste of time. The brothel master smiled. Sect Master Qin is straightforward. In return, this seat will bisect Master Qin some time. During this time, the Qin Emperor will not make a move against you. Of course, the one who causes chaos in the Qin is also Qin, Sect Master Qin. I will need you to investigate the root of this problem yourself and resolve it. Qin Yu nodded. All right, the brothel master said. Cheongji and Sect Master Qin are old acquaintances. Let him assist Sect Master Qin in the following period of time. He stood up and smiled. In addition, there is another person in the building who has a deep relationship with Sect Master Qin. Someone will bring Sect Master Qin to see her. This seat has other matters to attend to, so farewell. He turned and disappeared. Qin Yu's heart sank. Soon, a person flew onto the cloud platform and cupped his hands. Sect Master Qin, I will lead the way on the brothel master's orders. Thank you. The two flew off the cloud platform, passed through a large number of pavilions and palaces, and stopped in the air above a courtyard. The guide stopped and pointed. The person Sect Master Qin wants to see is here. Finished speaking, he cupped his hands and turned to leave. Without needing to see, Qin Yu knew who the person in the courtyard was the moment he looked down. As expected, he had been discovered. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yu landed, walked to the door and pushed it open. The courtyard door opened and he stepped inside. Who is it? A low, vigilant shout came from the room. The restrictive formation in the courtyard was activated. But soon, all of this stopped. Li Ruhua looked at Qin Yu standing in the courtyard, shock, anger, and panic in her eyes. How could he be here? Qin Yu said, "Miss Li, it's been a long time." Li Ruhua coldly said, "Sect Master Qin, how dare you? This is the 13th floor, and yet you dare to intrude into my residence without permission. Please leave immediately." Qin Yu said, "Miss Li, if there was no one to lead the way, how could I have known that you lived here?" He stepped forwards. "So don't be angry for now. I also have some matters that I hope to obtain an answer from you." He flicked his sleeves. The mountain river sword appeared, floating in the air above the courtyard. Sword light erupted, instantly covering the area and isolating everything. A trace of anger appeared on Li Ruhua's face. "Get out, get out!" Qin Yu lifted a hand. She froze on the spot. "Your cultivation is yours, but it isn't just yours." Perhaps it was because he felt that these words were a bit too difficult to understand, but he rubbed the space between his eyebrows. "In short, something must have happened between you and me." He looked at Li Ruhua. "Today I will find an answer." Li Ruhua screamed, "Don't even think about it. I don't know anything." Not cooperating, Qin Yu thought for a moment. "Bai Feifei." Shua, her figure appeared. She looked at Li Ruhua and then at Qin Yu, an awkward expression on her face. "My lord, this isn't too good, right?" Qin Yu was expressionless. Bai Feifei immediately fell silent. She walked in front of Li Ruhua. "What do you want to do?" Bai Feifei lifted a hand and slapped her forehead. There was a light smack. "You woman, you don't know how lucky you are. This old lady wants you more than anything. Be a good girl and say it so that there won't be any more trouble." She took a step forward. She was like a shadow as she merged into Li Ruhua's body. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Qin Yu quietly waited at the side. It wasn't that he was rude, but that this matter had to be investigated. And now, he had no time to waste with Li Ruhua. He could only choose the fastest and most effective method. If she didn't cooperate, then he would use force. After a moment, Bai Feifei's figure walked out from Li Ruhua's body, rapidly turning from illusory to solid. She met Qin Yu's gaze, a strange expression on her face. "My lord, I've investigated it." Qin Yu said, "Speak." Bai Feifei lifted a hand and pointed at Li Ruhua. "She is connected to your aura, and the reason you are one is because she is your wife." Qin Yu frowned. "What nonsense!" Chapter 1790. Bai Feifei did not speak. Qin Yu glanced at her, then at her again. "My lord, it's true. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself." Bai Feifei stretched out her hand. Qin Yu thought for a moment, then grasped it. Countless scenes quickly appeared in his mind. Everything that had happened in the realm of Nank and Golden Millet, he had experienced it all again. Or rather, Qin Yu had recalled everything. Little meat. He gritted his teeth, a bitter smile on his face. Qin Yu didn't believe a single word that she hadn't arranged all of this. But why? Even if she wanted to borrow Li Ruhua's luck to arrange for her to help Qin Yu accumulate his cultivation, there was no need to use such a method, right? Where did Little Meat get her bad taste? However, from this point of view, it did make sense to say that Li Ruhua was his wife. Even if all of this was more like a dream to Qin Yu. Bai Feifei withdrew her hand, coughing lightly. "My lord, I will not interfere in your private affairs. Please settle it yourself." With that, her figure faded away. Bai Feifei could not be bothered with such trivial matters. What if the two of them reconciled in the future? After all, matters between men and women were never clear. Don't be fooled by the coldness now. Who knew when they would become passionate? It was better not to cause trouble for herself. Swish! Opposite him, Li Ruhua opened her eyes, staring at Qin Yu with a frosty expression. She had been conscious throughout everything that had happened. This was a bit embarrassing. Qin Yu coughed lightly. My apologies, I have offended you. With a flick of his sleeves, he released Li Ruhua's suppression. Qin Yu, I will kill you. She threw herself at him, murderous. He could definitely beat her, but Qin Yu had a guilty conscience. Moreover, the reputation of hitting women was too bad. Yes, a good man did not fight with a woman. That was it. In the following time, Qin Yu remained motionless, acting as a target for her to vent her anger. He also had to control his strength to avoid hurting Li Ruhua. He let her hit him to her heart's content, until he was panting and sweating profusely. Looking at Li Ruhua in front of him, some scenes suddenly flashed in Qin Yu's mind. It seemed that Li Ruhua had panted like this when she was dreaming. Only that was on the bed, and her expression was much better than now. Hiss, what am I thinking? Qin Yu rubbed his face. He felt that he was indeed a bit abnormal. However, there was one thing that was undeniable. That feeling was indeed memorable. It was as if Qin Yu had personally experienced it. Qin Yu. Li Ruhua's face reddened as she glared at him. Qin Yu was startled. He didn't say anything at all, so how did she know? However, it was obvious that Li Ruhua had sensed something. Although he was so tired that he was panting, he still rushed forward and continued to ravage him. The only pity was that the method she used to trample upon him had a limited effect. She wasn't able to cause any substantial harm to him at all. Qin Yu's current strength far surpassed Li Ruhua's. Secondly, Li Ruhua's half-martial monarch realm was dependent on Qin Yu. Just as Qin Yu had said before, your cultivation is yours, but it's not just yours. If Li Ruhua wanted to injure Qin Yu, it would be extremely difficult. Finally, she collapsed from exhaustion. Perhaps it was because today's experience had a great psychological impact on her, but Li Ruhua fainted. Qin Yu looked at Li Ruhua on the ground. After a moment's hesitation, he picked her up and carried her back to her room. He glanced at the unconscious woman, who was still frowning. Qin Yu couldn't help but sigh. Another muddled account. Little meat, hurry up and come back. I have to properly settle this with you. Returning to the courtyard, Qin Yu was silent. He thought for a moment. Bai Feifei, come out. Shua, Bai Feifei appeared. My lord, I was asleep just now. I didn't see or hear anything. Her expression was solemn, as if she wished she could swear an oath on the spot. Qin Yu's lips twitched. He coldly coughed. I can't be bothered to bother with you. I didn't ask you to come out for such trivial matters. Help me think about it. Just why did Qin Huang want to kill me? Bai Feifei said, My lord, aren't you asking the wrong person? I haven't been with you for long, so I don't know anything. Qin Yu said, I am well aware that besides my surname Qin, I have never had any connection with the great Qin Empire. Could it be just because of my surname? That would be far too laughable. The world is so vast, and there are millions of people with the surname Qin. Emperor Qin can't possibly find them and kill them all. Bai Feifei could see that Qin Yu was a bit angry. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such stupid words. She thought for a moment and then cautiously said, Emperor Qin isn't so senseless. If he wants to kill my lord, there must be a reason. Say something useful. Bai Feifei coughed. What is useful is that, my lord, carefully think about it. Have you forgotten something important? To Emperor Qin, those who cause chaos in Qin are also Qin. This is a bottom line that cannot be crossed. If you cannot solve this problem, Emperor Qin will definitely attack again. Qin Yu rubbed his temples. I am certain that I haven't forgotten anything. As he spoke to hear, he suddenly paused. It seemed that he hadn't forgotten anything. For instance, the memories of grandeur and the golden millet realm had been blocked by little Meaty, causing him to be kept in the dark until today. Could this be the reason why Emperor Qin wanted to kill him? He spoke of his speculations. Bai Feifei said, it isn't impossible. After all, grandeur and golden millet realm seem like dreams. But these dreams aren't ordinary at all. Otherwise, Li Ruhua wouldn't have formed such a close connection with my lord. Qin Yu nodded, but soon he felt a headache coming on. Li Ruhua's attitude was the key. Looking at the current situation, she didn't want to communicate with Qin Yu at all. If he wanted to learn anything about grandeur and the Golden Millet realm from her, it would undoubtedly be difficult. Bai Fei said, "My lord, there is no need to worry. When I was reading Li Ruhua's memories about grandeur and the Golden Millet realm, I discovered something. It is currently in the hands of a cultivator called Li Mu. As long as my lord can find him, you can enter grandeur and the Golden Millet realm and investigate the truth yourself." Qin Yu's eyes brightened. "You know where Li Mu is?" Bai Fei shook her head. "But I know that Li Ruhua can find him." Qin Yu nodded. Although the problem still returned to Li Ruhua, it was still much simpler to just ask for a person's contact information. As for whether or not she would cooperate, Qin Yu let out a breath, his eyes tranquil once more, although he couldn't help but feel a little guilty towards Li Ruhua, grandeur, and the Golden Millet realm. Just what was going on? Why would Li Ruhua appear in this place? This matter simply couldn't stand up to scrutiny. So, while there was a bit of guilt, it wasn't much. When it came to matters that involved his life or death, Qin Yu wouldn't give Li Ruhua a chance to continue coldly resisting. It was best if she spoke, but if she didn't, Bai Fei would still be useful. Half a day later, Li Ruhua woke up. She blinked, her eyebrows furrowing together. "This isn't a dream." "Shua!" She fiercely stood up and glared at Qin Yu. "Why are you here? Get out!" Qin Yu looked at her. "Li Ruhua, if I wanted to do something, I could have done it while you were unconscious. In fact, if I wanted to, even if you were awake, I could have done it." Li Ruhua's eyes widened. She glared at Qin Yu. "Get out! Get out!" She was thoroughly enraged. Qin Yu frowned. He lifted a hand and pointed forward. She froze in place. "Li Ruhua, I have a question. If you give me an answer, I will immediately leave. Grandeur and the Golden Millet realm are in Li Mu's hands. I want you to tell me how to find him. Of course, you can refuse to answer, but you've already experienced the same thing once. I hope that you can think this through." Qin Yu flicked his sleeves, releasing the suppression on her. "Qin Yu!" Li Ruhua clenched her teeth, her eyes filled with anger. Qin Yu was expressionless. "Give me your answer." Li Ruhua took a deep breath. "Li Mu is a direct descendant of the Li family of the Four Families. Last time I asked him to help, he owed me a favor. Now, I have no way of contacting him. This is the only thing I can tell you." Qin Yu glanced at her. He cupped his hands together. "Thank you." He turned and left. Bai Fei was startled. "My lord, you're leaving just like that?" Qin Yu said, "Haven't you seen enough?" "No. I mean, how could you believe her so easily? What if she's lying to you?" "She won't." Qin Yu pushed open the door and walked out of the small courtyard. He raised his hand and the mountain river soared, whistled into his hand. True Sovereign Cheongji was already waiting outside. He cupped his hands together and bowed. "Sect Master Qin, the Tower Master has ordered me to assist you. True Sovereign Cheongji." Qin Yu cupped his hands in return and said, "I'm going to leave the 13th floor now." He looked up and said in a deep voice, "Tower Master, I'm leaving." Swish! The space flashed and the Tower Master walked out. "Sect Master Qin, have you met an old friend?" Qin Yu glanced at him and said, "Li Ruhua and I do have a deep relationship. I hope Tower Master can take care of her." The Tower Master smiled. "Of course. Li Ruhua is the most outstanding disciple of my 13th floor. I'm going to take her as my disciple and teach her." Qin Yu nodded. "Thank you, Tower Master." The Tower Master flicked his sleeves and opened the heaven world. "Sect Master Qin, have a safe trip. Farewell." Qin Yu stepped forwards and vanished from sight. True Sovereign Cheongji bowed to the Tower Master and followed. Creak! The courtyard doors opened, and Li Ruhua walked out, a restless look on her face. "Tower Master!" The Tower Master lifted a hand and lightly said, "Li Ruhua, I ask you, are you willing to enter my tutelage and cultivate?" Li Ruhua fell to her knees and kowtowed. "Disciple greets, honorable master." The Tower Master smiled. "Very good. From now on, you are my disciple." There was no agreement between him and Qin Yu, but as long as Li Ruhua was in his hands, he didn't fear Qin Yu going back on his word. Their auras were connected, and they shared weal and woe. Holding Li Ruhua in his hands was the same as grasping Qin Yu's life. On the ground, Li Ruhua clenched her fists, her eyes icy cold. "Qin Yu, one day, I'll return all this humiliation in double." Space surged. Qin Yu and true sovereign Qiongji walked out one after another. "The Tower Master asked you to work for me. Is there some doubt?" True sovereign Qiongji bitterly smiled. "I don't know, but the Tower Master is extremely powerful and nearly omniscient." There was a trace of fear on his face. For a dignified true sovereign to reveal such an expression, there was no need to doubt the strength of the Tower Master of the 13th floor. Qin Yu took a deep breath. Omniscient, he could already confirm that the Tower Master of the 13th floor knew of his relationship with Li Ruhua. Before leaving, he told Qin Yu that he wanted to take Li Ruhua as his disciple. This was a threat, but luckily, the Tower Master had placed all of this in the open. Although this was the actions of a villain, a true villain would always be better than a hypocrite. Moreover, this also showed that the Tower Master was willing to make this transaction with Qin Yu. As long as there were no problems with the transaction, Li Ruhua would be fine. At least she would be safe for a period of time. Qin Yu let out a long breath and suppressed his thoughts. He only hoped that Li Ruhua would know everything sooner rather than becoming a hostage in the Tower Master's hands. He had to admit that he didn't truly care about Li Ruhua. But right now, Li Ruhua and he were in a state of two sides of the same coin. If something happened to Li Ruhua, he would also suffer misfortune. True sovereign Qiongji said, "Sect Master Qin, where do we go next?" Qin Yu said, "To find someone." The central wasteland divine continent was a vast land with countless cultivators. It was divided into countless large and small influences. It could be said that their roots were intertwined with each other. But among them, the most famous and powerful were undoubtedly the 4 sects and 4 families. They ruled over large tracts of land. The 13th floor was certainly the strongest, but the so-called immortal lands were places that ordinary people couldn't enter, and they rarely interfered with worldly affairs. Thus, they weren't included. Skyrend, Tao Essence, Dark Marsh, and Limitless World were the 4 sects. Zhao, Su, Li, and Tian were the 4 families. They represented the peak influences of the central wasteland divine continent. The Li family was ranked 3rd among the 4 families. The old ancestor of the family was one of the oldest true sovereigns. Moreover, through marriage, taking in disciples, and making offerings, they had accumulated an extremely deep foundation. There were 6 half-step sovereigns. As for the remaining sovereign powerhouses, they were innumerable. It had to be known that a long time ago, the Li family was only one of the 4 families of the central wasteland divine continent. With the strength of a single family, they had the qualifications to rule over one of the 8 desolate domains. This was also why when Li Ruhua and Li Gu had descended to the Western Wilderness, with their status as the Western Wilderness Great Emperor, they had to tolerate them. Tong City was the foundation of the Li family. It was the origin of the Li family. After a long time, the Li family kept expanding. It had grown from a small city to one of the largest cities in the eastern part of the central wasteland. In the city, there was a wudong tree that was green all year round. Rumor had it that a phoenix rested on the wudong tree. It was the guardian beast of the Li family and had the strength to fight against a true sovereign. At this moment, Li Mu was on the wudong tree. He suddenly frowned, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. "Li Ruhua, You really made a bad friend." He raised his hand and rubbed his face. Sure enough, trouble still came to him. Li Mu flipped over and landed on the ground. Suddenly a cry rang out. A huge bird spread its wings and flew out, carrying him on its back. Its feathers were gorgeous and seemed to have flowing light flowing around them. There was a feather crown on its head, giving off a luxurious aura. It was the phoenix resting on the wudong tree. Li Mu reached out and patted it. "Let's go home." The phoenix flapped its wings. The space shook and instantly disappeared. Chapter 1791. Great Qin Imperial Capital. Xianying. The atmosphere in the imperial palace was depressing. Everyone knew that His Majesty was not in a good mood. To be precise, he was in a very bad mood. Over the past few days, more than 300 palace servants had been punished for angering His Majesty. Naturally, the only ending for them was death. "Imperial Advisor, you are finally here. His Majesty has been waiting for a long time." The eunuch outside the hall bowed and ran over, his face full of anxiety. "Hurry in. Don't make His Majesty angry." Imperial Advisor nodded. "You can all leave." "Yes." The eunuch waved his hand, and the people around the hall bowed and left. Pushing open the door, Imperial Advisor walked in. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Humph. Imperial Advisor, you still know to come see me?" Qin Emperor sneered. Imperial Advisor had a calm expression. "Your Majesty, I left for a few days and went to West Desolation." Qin Emperor looked up. Imperial Advisor continued. "Heaven Opening Sword Sex Qinyu, from West Desolation, Zhou clan. I have investigated his identity. The details are here." He handed over a jade slip with both hands. Qin Emperor took it and flipped through it. "Thank you, Imperial Advisor." His tone softened. Imperial Advisor cupped his hands. "I assist His Majesty. Naturally, I will help His Majesty." "Keep an eye on him. I have a use for him." "Yes." Imperial Advisor thought for a moment. "Your Majesty, are you sure about Qinyu? After all, looking at their past, they have no connection with our great Qin Empire." Qin Emperor lightly said, "I am not completely sure, but it is not important now." Imperial Advisor nodded. That day, His Majesty personally took action. If it wasn't for the Tower Master, Qinyu would have died. With this, the relationship between Great Qin and Qinyu could no longer be eased. He had to die. "Your Majesty, did the Tower Master help to enter the Eternal Realm?" Qin Emperor sneered. "The Tower Master is a bit anxious. It seems his immortal item has begun to break." Imperial Advisor said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty." With the Tower Master gone, Qin Emperor had no opponent in the Eternal Realm. Qin Emperor waved his hand. "It is too early to congratulate. And I have a new problem. Qinyu has become stronger too quickly. I cannot see through him." The Imperial Scholar nodded. He had personally witnessed Qinyu's strength, and the increase in his strength was truly astonishing. "I will activate the Empire's intelligence network to investigate Qinyu's whereabouts. As long as he leaves the 13th floor, there will be nowhere for him to hide. Thank you, Imperial Preceptor." "Your Majesty." Space silently collapsed, and two people walked out of it. True Emperor Cheongji pointed. "Sect Master Qin, this is Tong City." Qinyu swept his eyes around and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. What a great city! It was like a giant beast crawling on the ground, blocking a large portion of the sky and casting an endless shadow. However, that was all. There was no reverence or admiration, not even the slightest bit. This was because he had already stepped into the Emperor realm. If he were to unleash his full strength, he could even withstand Emperor Qin for a moment. Just this point alone was enough to surpass most true emperors in this world. Although Tong City was big, it was only big. If Qinyu wanted to, he could destroy it with a wave of his hand. "Let's go." Qinyu stepped forwards and walked towards Tong City. True Sovereign Cheongji followed behind and frowned slightly as he looked at his back. In fact, He really wanted to ask what Qin Yu's plan was. He already knew who Qin Yu was looking for. Even as a true sovereign of the 13th Tower, he had heard of Li Mu. He was a direct descendant of the Li family and an outstanding talent of the younger generation. He was ranked first among the top 10 prodigies below the Emperor realm and was highly valued by the Li family's forefather. Li Mu was someone who could flaunt his seniority in front of the Tower Lord. He was extremely powerful. After all, under normal circumstances, even a dog could become extremely terrifying as long as it lived long enough. Not to mention someone like Li Mu. Although Qin Yu was able to block Emperor Qin for a moment and his killing intent was shocking, nothing good would come out of it if he just went up to Li Mu. It wouldn't work even if true sovereign Cheongji was included, because this was Tong City. Not to mention the annoying Phoenix. Ancestor Li was undefeatable just because of the home advantage. True Emperor Cheongji couldn't figure out where Qin Yu's confidence came from. Or did he have some other tricks up his sleeve? Swoosh, swoosh, too. Figures flew over with a piercing sound. Li Sang and Li Qing of the Li family greet, sect Master Qin and true Emperor Cheongji. The two of them bowed respectfully. True Emperor Cheongji's expression changed slightly. The Li family was strong indeed. They'd just arrived and hadn't done anything, but the other party had come knocking on their door and figured out their identities. Just this point alone was a show of strength that wasn't that obvious. True Emperor Cheongji glanced at the still calm Qin Yu. She glanced at Qin Yu and saw that he still had a calm expression. She was even more pessimistic about his plan. The forefather is waiting. Please meet sect Master Qin and true Emperor Cheongji. Qin Yu nodded. Lead the way. Please. Li Sang and Li Mu bowed respectfully before turning around and flying ahead. On the ground, countless gazes looked over with boundless respect. Although they didn't recognize Qin Yu and Cheongji, Li Sang and Li Mu were the true bigwigs of Fuzhou City. They were in charge of daily affairs and were like heaven to them. But now, the attitudes of the two of them proved just how important Qin Yu and Cheongji's statuses were. Could it be that a true emperor had arrived? When this thought occurred to them, the gazes from the ground became more respectful and restrained. After all, no one wanted to anger a true emperor because of such rudeness. Qin Yu's eyes fell on the parasol tree in the city that seemed to support the heavens. It was lush with leaves and full of vitality. True Emperor Cheongji said, "This parasol tree is a relic from ancient times. It attracted a phoenix and built a nest on it. Its strength is comparable to a true emperor." Qin Yu knew that Cheongji was reminding him. He nodded, but his expression was still calm. The Li family was indeed powerful. As one of the four families, he had done his research. After all, with his cultivation at this level, it was hard not to interact with them in the central wilderness. The Li ancestor was strong. He also had a phoenix to protect him. The family had a deep background and many half-emperor powerhouses. But to Qin Yu, this was useless. Today he came to ask for people. The Li family had to give them to him, whether they wanted to or not. This wasn't arrogance, but Qin Yu had a trump card in his hand. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Cheongji, we've arrived. Li Sang and Li Mu landed first. In the next moment, a calm voice resounded through the world. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Cheongji has come to visit. The entire Li family is radiant with glory. I hope you can forgive me for not coming out to greet you. Ancestor Li stepped out to greet them. He wore wide white robes and exuded an otherworldly aura. This was different from what one imagined. Ancestor Li had lived for countless years and didn't appear in his old age. He looked like a middle-aged man around 30 years old. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, and he was handsome and carefree. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Greetings, Ancestor Li. True Emperor Cheongji said, Ancestor Li, I took the liberty to visit. I hope you don't blame me. Ancestor Li faintly smiled. Two true emperors visiting my Li family is the face of my Li family, so I naturally didn't take the liberty to speak. 2 friends. I have already prepared some meager wine. Please have a drink. There are some juniors in my family who are impatient to come greet the 2 true emperors. His eyes turned and fell on Qin Yu. And among them, there are several little fellows who are loyal believers of sect Master Qin. They cultivate the sword path and naturally hope to receive 1 or 2 pointers from sect Master Qin. I hope that sect Master Qin will not find this troublesome. Qin Yu said, "Since Ancestrally has spoken, I have no objections. But the reason I came here today is to look for someone in the Li family. I would like to ask Ancestor Li to help me. I will be deeply grateful." True Emperor Cheongji's face stiffened. Qin Yu was about to get straight to the point. Why was he in such a hurry? He didn't leave any room for a buffer. If he were to be directly rejected, wouldn't the situation turn stiff? He coughed lightly and said, "Ancestor Li, I came here on the orders of the Tower Master to assist sect Master Qin. There are some things I hope you can accommodate me a little." The reason he brought up the Tower Master wasn't to scare Ancestor Li away. True Emperor Cheongji was well aware that this was useless. Ancestor Li had already acted shamelessly in front of the Tower Master more than once. The Tower Master had endured it. The only reason he spoke up was because he hoped that this old thing knew that this contained the will of the Tower Master and that he should be careful in his actions. "I see." Ancestor Li faintly smiled. "Since sect Master Qin has spoken and the Tower Master has some face, I naturally won't refuse. Please enter. We will speak after we are seated." Qin Yu glanced at him. Things were going so smoothly. He always felt that there was a problem here. But since Ancestor Li agreed, then he would wait and see just what medicine he had up his sleeves. They entered the Li family. The main hall used to receive honored guests had already been prepared. Although the place was large, there were only 3 tables. This was because with Qin Yu and Cheongji's status, only Ancestor Li had the qualifications to receive guests. If it were anyone else, that would be a great disrespect to the true emperor. Sect Master Qin, true Emperor Cheongji, please have a drink. Ancestor Li smiled and raised his hand, draining it in a single gulp. Qin Yu maintained his composure. He picked up his cup and drank. "Ancestor Li, the one I am looking for, is a junior of the Li family." Li Zhu rubbed his palms together and laughed. "What a coincidence! My Li family's juniors are all waiting outside the hall. I will let them in now. Sovereign Qin, if you want to find someone, just call him out and ask him to speak with you." True Emperor Cheongji put down his cup, a smile on his face. Luckily, Ancestor Li was very cooperative. It seemed that the face of the Tower Master had taken effect, or rather, Qin Yu's name was very useful right now. After all, he was the only one in the last several thousand years. He was a man who had survived the attack of Qin Emperor. Although the Tower Master had saved him, it was still amazing that he could resist Qin Emperor's attacks. At the very least, true Emperor Cheongji didn't have the slightest confidence. If it were him, he would have died long ago. A group of Li family youths filed into the hall. There were over 100 of them. But one had to believe that for the Li family that occupied one of the 4 families that had existed for dozens of generations, this was already an outstanding junior left behind. Otherwise, if they all came, even if the hall was expanded 10 times, it still wouldn't be able to accommodate them. "Greetings, old ancestor." Everyone knelt down and bowed. Ancestor Li smiled and waved his hand. "Stand up. Open your eyes wide and look clearly. In front of you is the heaven-splitting sword sect Master Qin and the protector of the 13th tower, true Emperor Cheongji. They are both characters that can shake mountains with a stamp of their feet in the central, desolate, divine continent. In the future, remember this. Do not ever offend me." The Li family youths turned and bowed. "Greetings, sect Master Qin, true Emperor Cheongji." Several of them looked at Qin Yu. Their faces flushed red with excitement. They were sword cultivators. And Qin Yu was the unquestionable leader of the Sword Dao lineage in the present world. He was the current #1 person. Qin Yu looked up. Ancestrally, the person I am looking for is not here. The smiling true Emperor Cheongji's heart skipped a beat. There really was a mistake. He knew that this old thing, Ancestor, wouldn't easily cooperate. Cough! Sect Master Qin, how about you take a closer look? Qin Yu said he's not here. Ancestor Li was surprised. He's not here? The most outstanding juniors of the Li family are all in the main hall. Or I can have my subordinates find the others, so that Sect Master Qin can search for them one by one. There is no need to trouble yourself. The person I am looking for is Li Mu. Qin Yu said, I will have to trouble Ancestor Li to summon him to the main hall. Ancestor Li shook his head. Li Mu, that will be a bit troublesome. That boy didn't cultivate properly and was driven out of the family by me. I have no idea where he is right now. He smiled. Sect Master Qin, rest assured that I will have someone look for him. When he returns, I will inform Sect Master as soon as possible. Qin Yu was silent. The main hall fell silent. True Emperor Cheongji hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Sect Master Qin, since Ancestor Li has said so, we might as well wait. We should be able to find Li Mu soon. His eyes fell on Ancestor Li. Normally speaking, that's true. But this time, I drove Li Mu out because I was really angry. So, I took back the Li family's peace token from him. Ancestor Li shook his head. So, if we want to find this kid, I'm afraid it'll take some time. But that's fine. If Sect Master Qin is in a hurry, you can temporarily stay at the Li family. That way, as long as we find him, we can immediately bring him back. True Emperor Cheongji's complexion stiffened. No one here was a fool. How could they not recognize the word perfunctory? Ancestor Li, this old bastard. His words were beautiful and flawless, but he clearly didn't plan on handing Li Mu over. Sure enough, this matter wasn't as simple as he imagined. If Qin Yu wanted to find Li Mu, there must be some other reason. And the Li family wouldn't cooperate at all. A soft nail. Qin Yu said, Ancestor Li, is there really no way? His voice was calm, but at this moment, true Emperor Cheongji's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt uneasy. He dryly laughed. Sect Master Qin is in a hurry. Ancestor Li, why don't you put in some effort? If you personally go, you will definitely be able to find Li Mu. Ancestor Li shook his head. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't help. If Sect Master Qin isn't satisfied, I can only express my regret. Qin Yu stood up. Shua. Countless eyes gathered on him. Ancestor Li smiled and said, Fuzhou City is indeed far from Xianyang, but for His Majesty Emperor Qin, you can come here with a thought. Sect Master Qin, let me remind you that the spy system of the Great Qin Empire is operating at full speed to find your traces. So, I advise Sect Master Qin not to be too hot-tempered, or you might hurt yourself. This was a threat. Qin Yu directly turned hostile. Sure enough, the older one was, the more ruthless he was when he turned hostile. He was fast, ruthless, and accurate. He immediately grasped Qin Yu's weakness, making it difficult for him to deal with it. That day, it was the Tower Master who came to save Qin Yu. But this didn't mean that Emperor Qin would really give up. If he had a chance to kill Qin Yu suddenly, would the Tower Master still avenge him? Stop it. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, Emperor Qin would definitely take action. True Emperor Cheongji winked at Qin Yu, indicating that he shouldn't act impulsively, lest the situation become more and more awkward and eventually irreconcilable. Qin Yu sat back down and poured himself a glass of wine. Just when true Emperor Cheongji thought that he had thought it through and decided to temporarily endure and give in, Qin Yu picked up the glass of wine and poured it on the ground. This wine is a toast to the Li family in advance. Chapter 1792. The hall fell deathly silent. True Sovereign Cheongji's eyelids twitched. He had guessed that Qin would do something, but he didn't expect it to be so violent and direct. The meaning behind his actions and his words was self-evident. Ancestor Li narrowed his eyes and smiled. Sect Master Qin, I have lived for many years, but this is the first time someone has dared to say such things in front of me. To toast my Li family, that depends on whether or not Sect Master Qin has the qualifications to do so. Otherwise, I can only say that Sect Master Qin has the foresight to pour this cup for himself ahead of time. He couldn't wait any longer. Good heavens! It looked like he was about to shed all pretense of cordiality and fight head-on. True Sovereign Xiongji didn't want to accompany Qin in this madness. He couldn't understand what Qin was thinking. Ancestor Li had already laid out the threat. Emperor Qin was the sharp sword hanging above Qin head. Once true sovereign's killing aura erupted, Emperor Qin would instantly sense it and arrive at Tong City the next moment. What would happen then? Would the Tower Master come again? Face was something that could only be saved once. The Tower Master had already saved Qin once. With true Sovereign Xiongji's understanding of the Tower Master, he wouldn't continue to help. To clash with the Li family, that was suicide. Ancestrally, Sect Master Qin, please calm down. True Sovereign Xiongji said in a low voice. Today's matter isn't anything major. It only involves a junior of the Li family. Moreover, Sect Master Qin is looking for Li Mu because he hopes he can help, not because he wants to harm him. Ancestrally, Sect Master Qin is anxious and his actions are a bit rash. He doesn't have any hostility towards the Li family, so please bear with him. Everyone should take a step back. There's no need to make things irreparable. Ancestor Li picked up his wine cup and took a sip. I never wanted to make things worse. From the very beginning, I was very easy to talk to. As for Sect Master Qin, perhaps because he suddenly ascended to such a high position, he forgot what it means to be cautious, rational, and respectful. His attitude was very tough. Old thing, he still had the face to say easy to talk to. His skin was thick enough. True Sovereign Xiongji cursed inwardly, but the situation was beyond his control. He turned and looked at Qin. Sect Master Qin, how about we leave Tong City today? Halfway through, he was interrupted by Qin. He looked at Ancestrally, his face calm, his eyes even calmer. The ancient remnant true emperor, the master of Dongting, was hiding in the Black Sea. I killed him myself, not long ago. Ancestor Li said indifferently. Sect Leader Qin, are you threatening me? Humph. The Lord of Dongting is nothing in front of me. Qin shook his head. I'm just reminding Ancestor Li that on the day I killed the Lord of Dongting, God's punishment came to kill me. Ancestor Li frowned. What is Sovereign Qin trying to say? It's simple. Qin lifted a hand and pointed at himself. Since I can draw down the heavenly retribution once, I can draw it down a second time. Moreover, it's right here in Tong City, right in this hall. If I can resist heaven's retribution once and not die, then I can resist it a second time. However, I fear that the Li family does not have the means to resist heaven's retribution. Ancestor Li's face stiffened. He stubbornly glared at Qin. You don't have the aura of heavenly retribution on you. Indeed, there isn't. But if I want to, there will be. Qin was expressionless. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps next month. In short, as long as I want to, I can do it. Of course. Ancestor Li can also try to invite Sovereign Qin to descend and kill me today. Let's see if I have the means to drag the Li family down with me. True Monarch Xiongji's eyes widened. There was actually such a thing, but upon further thought, it was indeed terrifying. If Qin really drew down God's punishment in the Li family, who knew what other methods he had? After all, Qin was a man who had survived God's punishment unscathed. If the Li family was truly affected by God's punishment, the consequences would be too terrifying. disregarding everything else. Besides, ancestrally, everyone in the Li family would die. Even Ancestor Li himself might not be able to escape. After all, this was God's punishment. True monarch Cheongji looked at Qin Yu, his heart filled with emotion. They were both at the Emperor realm. So why was Qin Yu so outstanding? He was clearly a great calamity, but he had been played with and turned into a trump card. Ancestor, I heard that sect Master Qin was here. I had to come back to see him, even if I had to suffer punishment. Please have mercy. A young man ran into the hall amidst miserable cries. Ancestor Li snorted coldly. Li Mu, tell me, how did you offend sect Master Qin to the point of his wrath? Hurry up and apologize. Yes. It's all my fault. Li Mu walked over and bowed deeply. Li Mu greets sect Master Qin. No matter what I did wrong, please tell me and I will definitely correct it. Ancestor Li coughed softly. Sect Master Qin, this junior of the Li family is indeed unruly. This old man has a headache as well. However, his aptitude is not bad, and I have some expectations. If it's possible, I hope Sect Master Qin can have mercy. His tone was calm and he wore a smile. It was as if the tense scene from before had never happened. Thick skin multiplied by 2. His mental fortitude was amazing. The corner of true monarch Cheongji's mouth twitched. But to be honest, he felt really good watching the scene. This old bastard ancestor, Li, was simply too slippery. Even in front of the Tower Master, he dared to act shamelessly. Humph, to think he would have such a day. Qin Yu filled his cup. Ancestor Li, I have offended you before. Let's drink this cup. Ha, good. Ancestor Li laughed. The two drank to each other. Setting down his cup, Ancestor Li waved his hand. There's nothing else for you to do. You may leave. Li Mu, you stay here and wait for Sect Master Qin to question you. Yes, Ancestor. The Li family disciples turned and left. Although it was relatively calm, their backs were already soaked with cold sweat. Was this the world of the big shots? It was too terrifying. Just now, they had truly taken a trip to the gates of hell. Everyone else retreated. Ancestor Li directly said, Sect Master Qin, do you need me to step aside? Qin Yu nodded. Yes, Ancestor Li. He stood up and looked at Li Mu. Answer me properly. Don't anger Sect Master Qin. Li Mu respectfully bowed. Old Ancestor, don't worry. True Sovereign Cheongji stood up on his own initiative. I will speak with Ancestor Li outside. He was well aware of his own limitations. In the blink of an eye, there was only Qin Yu and Li Mu left in the massive hall. Li Mu, do you know why I came here? Li Mu respectfully said, I'm not willing to hide it from Sect Master Qin, but I have an approximate guess. Tell me, it might involve the southern branch and golden millet realms of the past, Qin Yu said. You can remove the first word. He leaned forward, his eyes looking down from above. Now give me an answer. Just what happened in the southern branch and golden millet realms? Li Mu bitterly smiled. If I tell you, I have no idea whether or not Sect Master Qin will believe me. I won't. Li Mu's complexion became even more bitter. But this is the truth. He took a deep breath. I have no way to continue entering. If Sect Master Qin wants an answer, you will have to find it yourself. Qin Yu glanced at him. Li Mu stiffened. Okay. Who? Li Mu heaved a sigh of relief. Cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead, forming a dense layer. He was really afraid that Qin Yu would turn against him. That would be terrible. I will help Sect Master Qin open the passage now, but whether or not I can go in, I can't guarantee. Qin Yu raised his hand and grabbed Li Mu. Then he took a step forward and soared into the sky. Ancestrally, I will borrow Li Mu for a while. If everything goes well, I will personally send him back. Outside the hall, Ancestor Li's face darkened. True Emperor Cheongji coughed. Ancestrally, don't worry. Based on my understanding of Qin Yu, he is a man of his word. Just as he was about to take a step forward and leave, Qin Yu's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. True Emperor Cheongji, you stay in the Li family and wait for my return. True Emperor Cheongji paused and said, Ancestrally, it seems that I will have to trouble the Li family for a few days. Letting him stay in the Li family to monitor Ancestor Li was one of the reasons. As for the second reason, of course, he couldn't completely trust him. Ancestor Li snorted angrily. Sect Master Qin, you are really cautious. True Emperor Cheongji smiled and didn't say anything, but he didn't think so. So what if he is a true emperor? He seems to be high and mighty, but he is not really fearless. Otherwise, Ancestor Li wouldn't have been threatened so much that he almost gave up. It's always good to be cautious. Buzz with a sword cry above Tong City. Qin Yu took Li Mu and disappeared. In the city, on the sky-supporting parasol tree, a pair of huge half-covered eyes appeared between the thick leaves. The golden eyes looked in the direction where Qin Yu left, flashing with a cold luster. Boom! The space shattered and Qin Yu stepped out. With a thought, the mountain and river sword appeared, and he raised his hand and thrust it into the mountain peak. Invisible sword aura burst out and instantly covered the surrounding area, isolating this small area. Although this place was the mountain peak, it was hidden among the peaks and the mountain was relatively low. Unless one was close, it was impossible to detect it. Letting go of Li Mu, Qin Yu said, You can start. Li Mu respectfully nodded. He took a deep breath, and a knuckle-sized stone and a withered branch appeared in each of his hands. He waved his hand, and the stone swelled in the wind. The withered branch sprouted and fell on the stone. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a big tree. Sect Master Qin, the entrance has been opened. Please do not resist, but I am not sure whether I can go in or not. Qin Yu closed his eyes. It didn't take long for him to sense a pulling force. With his current cultivation, he could resist it with a thought. But since he knew that this was the way to enter Nank and Golden Millet Realms, Qin Yu took the initiative to greet it. Swish, the next moment, he appeared in another place. Above his head, there was only a big sun hanging high in the sky with white clouds. Nank descending, Golden Millet Dream. These two external objects could actually be pieced together to form such a real world. As expected of the creation of heaven and earth, each had its own magic. Immortal. Look at Immortal. It's really him. Just now he appeared. Qin Yu looked down and glanced at the people on the ground who were shouting and looking at him. Ah, Immortal saw me. Quickly kneel and ask Immortal to bless me. Immortal, can you accept me as your disciple? Swish, Qin Yu stepped out and disappeared from sight. Before he could clearly investigate what was happening here, Qin Yu decided to be a shadow. He wouldn't come into contact with anything here, lest there be any unpredictable consequences. In the next moment, Qin Yu appeared in front of a city. He landed on the ground and walked into the city, casually strolling around for half a day. As he walked out of a tea house, Qin Yu couldn't help but frown. His eyes revealed a dignified look. Shua! His figure flashed and disappeared once more. He appeared in this city, in an official's office. He found a place where all sorts of books were stored. Qin Yu flipped through them for a long time. Then he placed the book back and let out a light breath. He never thought that he would find the truth so easily. As far as he knew, when Emperor Qin descended and tried to kill him, he didn't seem to have wronged Qin Yu. He couldn't help but bitterly smile. This was because in the current Nank and Golden Millet Realms, there was only one country, Great Qin. And according to the records that Qin Yu flipped through, this Great Qin overlapped with the Great Qin of the central, desolate, divine continent in many places. For example, they were both called the State of Qin, imperial capital Xianying. And most importantly, the order of succession for the throne of Great Qin here was exactly the same as the Great Qin of the central, desolate, divine continent. Qin, you would be the first to not believe that this was a coincidence. Was this little meat's doing? Qin, you could only guess this. After all, entering this place back then was her arrangement. Moreover, Qin Yu's memories had been concealed for so many years. But why? Could it be that little meat wanted to one day replace the great Qin of the central, desolate, divine continent with a state of Qin in the Nank and Golden Millet realms? Utter nonsense. Absolutely impossible. As he thought of this, Qin Yu couldn't help but reveal a dignified expression, because Emperor Qin had made a move. If it was really useless, if it was really just a dream, why would Emperor Qin have sensed it? And a long time ago he had come up with a saying, those who cause chaos in Qin are also Qin. No matter how he looked at it, there was a problem. Qin Yu took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He suddenly felt that this dreamlike world wasn't simple. Creak! The door was pushed open. A young man carrying a lantern entered from outside. He was very careful. When he saw Qin Yu, he froze on the spot. Who are you? Qin Yu turned around and looked at the youth in front of him. He was around 13 to 14 years old, and his clothes were shabby. There was a faint familiarity between his eyebrows, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Now the youth stared at Qin Yu. He found it hard to hide the panic in his eyes, but he forced himself to remain calm. When he entered, Qin Yu hadn't sensed him ahead of time. This clearly wasn't right. It was as if he was destined to see this youth tonight. The strange feeling grew heavier and heavier. Qin Yu said, "What is your name?" The youth hesitated. Chen Shi. Qin Yu thought for a moment. Then he took a step back and vanished from sight. Ah! Chen Shi jumped in fright, but soon he covered his mouth, not daring to make a sound. This wasn't a place where a bastard son like him had the qualifications to enter. If he was discovered, he would be beaten half to death. But that person just now, was he a legendary immortal? He came without a shadow and left without a trace. He was even more fierce than in the stories. Qin Shi revealed a look of annoyance. He hadn't grasped the chance just now. If he could take this person as his master, how wonderful would that be? As the youth was immersed in regret, Qin Yu had already arrived at the land of the great Qin Empire, at the base of Xiaoliang Mountain, Ox Village. This was the ancestral land of the royal family and also the tomb of the founding ancestor. This place was heavily guarded and not even a bird could fly in. But to Qin Yu, this was a place where no one could stop him. Now he was standing at the base of Xiaoliang Mountain, looking at the mountain village from afar. There were many places that matched up with the scenes in his memory. A dream had actually continued to this day, and because of this he had even provoked the great Qin Empire. Qin Yu felt that this was the most absurd and yet incomparably powerful dream in the world. His eyes turned and fell on a place. There, Qin Yu could feel a familiar aura. It was Mimi. Besides that, there seemed to be something else. But without a doubt, everything here was related to her. It was true. Thinking about it, Qin Yu didn't directly investigate this place. Rather, he wanted to see someone first. Daoist cloudy mist. Qin Yu turned and walked up Xiaoliang Mountain. Through the ancient texts, he determined that every Qin emperor had to receive the approval of the imperial scholar before they ascended to the throne. And the imperial scholar was Daoist cloudy mist. Only after he nodded could he be bestowed a name and smoothly inherit the throne. The Qin Empire's inheritance was similar to the central, desolate Qin empires. That Daoist cloudy mist was clearly a crucial step. Whether this person's existence was intentional or not, as long as he investigated him, he could solve all the mysteries. As he walked up the mountain, there were layers upon layers of guards, but none of them were able to detect Qin Yu's tracks. Even if he directly walked past the great Qin guards, they wouldn't be able to sense him. Soon, Qin Yu arrived at the mountainside, outside the Xiaoliang monastery. After looking around, he stepped out and appeared within the monastery. The old ancestor will be speaking about the Tao today. We cannot be late. Let's go. This is the greatest opportunity we've had in our cultivation. If we can perceive a bit of it today, we will surely benefit endlessly. A group of Taoists revealed excited expressions as they hurried towards the main hall. Qin Yu stepped forward and followed. Chapter 1793. The old Taoist Cloudy Mist had now become a publicly recognized immortal in the Qin Empire. Since the founding of the Qin Empire, he had lived until now. This was a miracle that had never happened before. It was because of this that he was conferred the title of Imperial Teacher by the Qin Empire 2,000 years ago. The only puzzling thing was that the Imperial Teacher always lived in seclusion in Xiaoyang Mountain and never left. Some people tried to use the Imperial Teacher to have other thoughts, such as replacing the Qin family and becoming the ruler of the world. But without surprise, these people all died in the end. The Imperial Teacher used his actions to express his attitude and obtain the complete trust of the Qin Empire. Some people said that the Imperial Teacher sealed himself in Xiaoyang Mountain because he had an agreement with the Qin Empire to protect the ancestral land of the Qin Empire and protect the destiny of the Qin Empire. But there was no answer to these speculations. In the main hall, Taoist Cloudy Mist sat in the highest position. Below him, all the cultivators had gathered. Their eyes were filled with reverence and respect. There were a few bright yellow dots mixed in, making them particularly striking. Qin Yu looked down. The one in bright yellow was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had a dignified bearing. Behind him were two beautiful women, and each of them had a teenager with them. From these three people, Qin Yu could feel a familiar and intimate feeling. It wasn't strong, but it truly existed. Guessing their identities, Qin Yu couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. Were they his descendants? Standing in a corner of the hall, Qin Yu fell into deep thought. No one discovered that there was an uninvited guest in the hall today. The speech ended. Taoist Cloudy Mist waved his hand, and everyone respectfully excused themselves, their expressions intoxicated. They felt that the old ancestors' Tao art was mysterious and peerless. Every word he spoke was filled with deep meaning, causing one to think deeply. The 5 people from the royal family also bowed, incomparably respectful towards the Imperial Teacher. Your Majesty Qin Emperor, please wait a moment in the side hall. Okay. The current Qin Emperor cupped his hands together and left. Behind him, the 2 women and 2 youths revealed nervous expressions. The Imperial Teacher was about to make a decision. Soon, everyone in the hall left. Taoist Cloudy Mist stood up and walked down from his high seat. He faced a corner of the hall and respectfully bowed. Cloudy Mist greets the Lord. After a brief pause, space surged and Qin Yu's figure appeared. He said with surprise, "You can sense my existence." Taoist Cloudy Mist looked at the completely unfamiliar face in front of him. But his feeling wasn't wrong. His tone became even more respectful. "My cultivation is low, so I cannot sense your presence. But in the past, someone gave me a cultivation method. After I cultivated it to a high level, I was able to form a mark." He flipped his hand, and a ball of runes appeared in his palm. "This lowly Taoist has been waiting here for many years. My lord, you have finally come." As soon as Qin Yu saw those lines, he was able to determine that Taoist Cloudy Mist had been arranged by Midi. The possibility of this being a trap could also be eliminated. After some thought, he said, "Yunwu, what do you want to tell me about the Qin state?" Taoist Cloudy Mist shook his head. "I'm just following the orders of my superiors. I've been taking care of the Qin family until now. I'm not clear about the affairs of the Qin state." He wasn't lying. This was because as soon as Qin Yu saw those lines, he had already grasped it. That was the information Midi had left for him. As soon as he saw it, he could decipher it and grasp it in his hands. Everything about Taoist Cloudy Mist could be seen with a single glance. Did Emperor Qin's family come here for the inheritance of the throne? Yes. Qin Yu said, "I will go with you." He wanted to personally witness Taoist Cloudy Mist choose the new emperor of Great Qin. He wanted to see if there was anything fishy going on. Taoist Cloudy Mist respectfully bowed. Yes, Side Hall. Emperor Qin's family was waiting here. 2 beautiful women had flushed red faces, and their clothes were soaked with sweat. Today, the imperial scholar had spoken. The inheritance of the throne had been established. The future master of Great Qin was about to be born. Their sons both had the talent to become emperors, but there was only one emperor. Whoever's son sat on the throne would rule the world, and they would become the most respected women in the world. Emperor Qin frowned. In front of the imperial scholar, you cannot be disrespectful. You must control yourselves so that you don't lose face for the royal family. Yes, your majesty. The 2 noble women revealed looks of panic. Emperor Qin's frown deepened. He didn't think much of these 2 women, but their sons did indeed have outstanding talent. His eyes swept over the 2 calm princes. Emperor Qin's frown relaxed, and a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. The Great Qin Emperor chose not to look at one's background, but only at one's quality. At this time, the doors to the hall opened, and Taoist Cloudy Mist stepped in. Emperor Qin quickly stood up and bowed. Imperial scholar. But just as he finished speaking, he paused. This was because there was someone following behind Taoist Cloudy Mist. He was unfamiliar. He had never seen or heard of such a person at Clear Brightness Monastery. But for some unknown reason, when Emperor Qin saw this person, he couldn't help but feel a bit of awe. This caused the Emperor of the world to frown, his suspicions rising in his heart. Taoist Cloudy Mist waved his hand. Emperor Qin, there is no need to be so polite. This is an honored guest of Clear Brightness Monastery. I invited him here to bear witness. With these words, everyone's eyes fell on Qin Yu, witness of the emperor's inheritance. Just this point alone was enough to show just how valuable Qin Yu's status was. Emperor Qin cupped his hands together and bowed. I'll have to trouble this immortal master. The 2 women and the youth bowed together. Qin Yu nodded. Without saying anything, he found a place to sit down. Before he came, he had already made an agreement with Taoist Cloudy Mist that Qin Yu wouldn't interfere in this matter. They could pretend that he didn't exist. Taoist Cloudy Mist said, Your Majesty Emperor Qin, please allow the 2 princes to come forward. The 2 women immediately had nervous expressions. Emperor Qin waved his hand. Go to the side of the imperial scholar. The 2 teenage princes arrived in front of him. Their eyes were filled with longing as they respectfully bowed. Greetings, imperial scholar. Taoist Cloudy Mist nodded. He reached out and grabbed 1 person each, having them stand on his left and right. He seemed to have made a decision and was about to make it, but at this time, Taoist Cloudy Mist suddenly looked at him. My lord, I suddenly feel that you should make a decision today. Who do you want to choose to inherit the Great Qin Emperor's position? Qin Yu frowned. Emperor Qin and the 2 women revealed shocked expressions. This wasn't just because Taoist Cloudy Mist wanted Qin Yu to decide who would inherit the throne, but also because he had called him my lord. It had to be known that the imperial scholar was a legend in the cultivation world of the Great Qin Empire. He was publicly recognized as the strongest person in the world, and no one could hope to catch up to him. But he actually called him my lord, and was extremely respectful towards the person in front of him. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. And because of this, Emperor Qin and the 2 women remained silent. An existence that could be called my lord by the imperial scholar was, of course, qualified to participate in the matter of the Great Qin Emperor's position. My lord, there's no need to be angry. I have a ball of paper in each of my hands. Inside it are different names for the 2 of them. Whichever one you choose, he will have a new name. Qin Yu didn't say anything. He understood what Taoist Cloudy Mist meant. He wanted Qin Yu to decide for himself the future of the Great Qin Empire. If his choice was different from the great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness, then the indescribable relationship between the great Qin Empire and the great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness might be severed. But if it was still the same, then it was fate. Or it could be said that Qin Yu couldn't escape his fate. He would have to end things with the great Qin Empire in the Middle Wilderness. In the side hall there was silence. The two royal youths were held by Taoist cloudy mist. They stared at Qin Yu with wide eyes. They were nervous and filled with anticipation. Qin Yu raised his hand and pointed. Taoist cloudy mist pulled the youth on the left. Open the ball of paper in your hand and read it out. Ah, yes. The youth, who was shocked by this great surprise, opened the ball of paper. Wu. The imperial scholar nodded and said, Then the next Emperor Qin will be Qin Wuzong. Qin Yu's heart shook. Qin Wuzong. It was Qin Wuzong, because the current Emperor Qin was Qin Wuzong. He looked up at the current Emperor Qin. You are Qin Suzong? Emperor Qin respectfully said, Yes. The two Qin empires overlapped once again. Qin Yu raised his hand, and the other royal youth landed beside him. He took the ball of paper and opened it. Qin Yu's eyes fell. Xian. If he chose the royal youth on the right, then the new Emperor Qin would be Qin Xuanzong. This would change the future. Something's wrong. Qin Yu lowered his head and stared at the ball of paper in his hand. The word Xian in his eyes suddenly became blurry. In the next moment, it turned into the word Wu. Qin Yu immediately understood. Two royal youths, two paper balls. No matter which one he chose, the result would be the same, Qin Wuzong. And this wasn't because of Taoist cloudy mist tricks, but because there was an invisible interfering strength in this world. As Qin Yu looked at the changing characters, he could faintly sense the source of this strength. Shua. He took a step forwards and vanished from sight. In the next moment, he appeared in the Qin Empire's emperor tomb. In front of him was a tomb that had been reinforced and renovated. This was the one that had been conferred the title of the founding ancestor of the Qin Empire. And when Qin Yu was at the foot of Little Liang Mountain, this was the place that he had sensed the strength that interfered with inheritance of the throne also came from here. Who dares to trespass into the emperor tomb? Angry roars sounded out. Someone come, take him down. Draw back immediately. Whoosh, whoosh. With the sound of breaking air, figures howled out. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves, and the world suddenly froze. Everything that approached the emperor tomb fell into a state of stillness. He took a deep breath and lifted a hand. The emperor tomb in front of him instantly disintegrated, revealing a coffin buried deep underground. Qin Yu walked forwards and pushed open the coffin. There was no corpse inside, only some funerary objects. A common-looking bamboo slip was among them. Qin Yu reached out a hand and took the bamboo slip. A meaty voice sounded out in his mind. Qin Yu, since you even dug up your own grave, it is clear that you already know what happened here. But I guarantee you that none of this was done by me, but because of your own reasons. After looking at the bamboo slip, put it back. There are some things that have already begun, and there is no turning back. Either you brace yourself and continue, or you die a horrible death. As for this bamboo slip, it is a path of retreat that I left for you. You must watch it carefully, and also be careful of Li Mu. That boy isn't normal. Don't fall into his schemes. Qin Yu lowered his head, and his eyes fell onto the bamboo slip. Bang, his mind shook. In the skies above the emperor tomb, winds began to rise and clouds began to gather. The contents of the bamboo slip were very simple. It was just a series of words connected together. The last two words were solemn and martial. Looking further up, every word matched up with the great Qin Empire's inheritance and the title of the new emperor. In Qin Yu's mind, some new memories suddenly appeared. This bamboo slip was something that belonged to Li Ruhua. She had given it to him. At first, there were only some messy lines on it without any words. On a certain afternoon, he had taught his son and daughter how to read and had personally carved these words. His son was called Chin. His daughter was called Chin. Bang! At this moment, raging waves rose up in Chin Yu's heart. Chin. Chin. Was this another coincidence? Or could it be said that it was an unavoidable fate? Rumble, rumble. In the skies above the Emperor tomb, countless clouds gathered, instantly covering the skies and plunging the world into darkness. Lightning exploded, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in the clouds, roaring and wreaking havoc. Outside mountain summit, above Nank Stone, below Yellow Millet Wood, Li Mu opened his eyes and looked at Qin Yu across from him. He hadn't lied before. After the great Qin Empire passed on for 10 generations, although he was still the master of Nank and Yellow Millet Wood, he had no way of entering again. But this didn't mean that Li Mu had completely lost his sense of Nank and Yellow Millet Wood. On the contrary, he had been patiently waiting for a perfect opportunity. And today, that opportunity had finally arrived. Qin Yu had entered Nank and Yellow Millet Wood once more. Moreover, he had opened the tomb and obtained the bamboo slip that he could clearly sense but didn't dare to touch. Phoenix! Li Mu roared. Tong City, atop the parasol tree. With a cry, the phoenix soared into the skies. It shook the void and submerged itself into the tree. Li family. Ancestor. Li's eyes flashed open. A sharp light flashed in them. Shua! In the next moment, he appeared in front of true sovereign Cheongji. Ancestrally, where did the phoenix go? Ancestrally said, I don't know either. True sovereign Cheongji coldly snorted. I still have matters to attend to. Farewell. Ancestor Li lifted a hand and pointed. Space instantly froze. The entire Li residence and even Tong City's aura instantly fused together with him. This was undoubtedly the home field's prestige. True sovereign Cheongji, I recently cultivated a new supernatural power. How about we compare notes and give me some advice? Ancestrally, true sovereign Cheongji roared. I advise you not to act recklessly. Your Li family might not be able to withstand the consequences. Ancestrally smiled. I don't understand true sovereign Cheongji's words. Let's compare notes. Compare notes, my ass. True sovereign Cheongji roared and punched out. The Li family's guardian divine, Beast Phoenix, suddenly left. Ancestor Li came directly to keep him here. It was impossible to say that there was no problem. Obviously, the Li family was scheming against Qin Yu. They had even prepared for this before they came. In other words, everything that happened after they came to Tong City was within the Li family's calculations. Damn it! True sovereign Cheongji's anger soared to the skies. Once something happened to Qin Yu, he wouldn't have a good ending either. The hidden danger of his vitality being annihilated still existed in his body. Boom! The two true sovereigns fought. The entire Tong City shook at this moment. Countless people widened their eyes in horror. They looked in the direction of the Li family, not knowing what had happened. But the terrifying aura indicated everything. This was a battle between true sovereigns. The great emperor's capital, Xianying. In the imperial palace, Qin Emperor opened his eyes, a sharp light surging in them. He stood up and took a step. Shua! He disappeared without a trace. In the next moment, Qin Emperor's figure appeared in the skies above Tong City. He looked down at the Li family. True sovereign Cheongji, who was in a fierce battle, felt his heart shrink. Qin Emperor. Chapter 1794. Ancestor Li cupped his hands. Greetings, Emperor Qin. Qin Huang asked, Where is Qin Yu? Sect Master Qin captured my disciple Li Mu. I don't know where he is now. However, Li Mu's aura is connected to the phoenix. If Emperor Qin finds the phoenix, he will find Sect Master Qin. Emperor Qin! Cheongji roared. The Tower Master made a deal with Qin Yu that has yet to be completed. Emperor Qin said lightly, I appeared here, but the Tower Master did not. That is the answer. He turned and disappeared. Cheongji's heart sank. What Emperor Qin said was the truth. The Tower Master must have sensed what happened in Tong City. The fact that he didn't do anything was a sign of respect to the Qin Emperor. Protecting Qin you could not be done twice. Otherwise, the great Qin Empire and the 13th Tower would break off relations and cause a catastrophe. Today's calamity could only be overcome by himself. But could he do it? Despair appeared in Cheongji's eyes. He didn't care about Qin Yu's life or death. But if Qin Yu died, he would most likely die as well. A true emperor falling to such a state was the most tragic thing in the world. Above the Nank Stone, under the yellow beamwood, the mountain river sword stabbed into the mountain suddenly vibrated and a majestic sword aura erupted. The next moment, space shook violently and the phoenix flew out with a cry. Li Mu stood up and looked at the mountain river sword. Sir, please show yourself. Swish, there was a flash of light, and Bai Feifei walked out with a frown. Her face cold. Li Mu, how dare you? Li Mu smiled and said, since I dare to face a long-lived species, I do have some guts. But since I dared to stand here, I came prepared. I will have to offend you. He raised his hand and threw out a talisman. Heaven's sealing talisman. Bai Feifei's eyes widened. You are the reincarnation of an ancient true spirit. The talisman burned, and an invisible sealing power enveloped Bai Feifei. At the same time, it suppressed the mountain river sword and Qin Yu. The sword aura isolation disappeared. The phoenix flew in and landed next to Li Mu, its golden eyes cold. Li Mu reached out to touch its feathers and said, Your Excellency is indeed a long-lived species. You know many secrets of heaven and earth. I have no choice today. Please forgive me. His words were polite, but that was all. Li Mu turned to look at Qin Yu, a sharp light surging in his eyes. Even though he was the reincarnation of a true spirit and was born with great destiny, the path of cultivation was not a smooth one. In particular, the threshold of longevity was much more difficult than that of other living beings. After obtaining the two treasures, the Nank Stone and the yellow beamwood, Li Mu had a new choice. Using the dream world as the foundation, he could turn it into reality. Between reality and illusion, he could break through his bottleneck and step into the eternal realm. However, it was extremely difficult to turn an illusory world into reality. Li Mu had waited for many years. It was not until Qin Yu entered that things changed. As the owner of the treasures, he actually had no way of entering and exiting the Nank and Golden Millet realms. After this happened, Li Mu was shocked at first, then delighted. He was very sure that the opportunity he had been waiting for was about to arrive. Therefore, he stayed in Tong City and didn't go anywhere. He just waited for Qin Yu to come to him. And now, just as he had expected, he had succeeded. Qin Yu entered the Nank and Golden Millet realms again. As long as he left his soul in them, he could use a secret method to make Qin Yu forget everything in the outside world and merge with the Qin Yu of the past. At that time, with the help of the relationship between the great Qin in this world and the great Qin in the outside world, and with Qin Yu as the medium, there was a chance to turn it into reality. Then, longevity was right in front of him. Just one more step. The last step, Li Mu turned around and looked at the phoenix beside him. When I finish the secret method, you release your aura and lead Qin Huang here. Qin Yu wanted to kill him, but he wouldn't do it himself. It was the best way to leave it to Qin Huang. Moreover, this was also the most critical step in the whole secret method ceremony. Qin Huang had to kill Qin Yu and break the sentence, he who disturbs the Qin dynasty is also Qin. The phoenix nodded. Lend me your cultivation. Li Mu reached out and grabbed it. The phoenix cried, and a phantom flew out of its body and merged into Li Mu's. Bang! He sat down cross-legged and raised a finger to touch between his eyebrows. As if slamming down a door, he forcefully broke through the blockade of the Nank and Golden Millet realms. Li Mu broke in. In the next moment, His figure appeared at the foot of Xiaoliang Mountain. With a glance, Li Mu took a step and entered the great Qin Emperor's mausoleum. In front of the tomb, Qin Yu frowned and turned his head. Li Mu cupped his hands together. Sect Master Qin, why did you come here? Li Mu said, to help Sect Master Qin and the Tomb Master merge into one, to help me solidify this world and open up the road to longevity. Qin Yu raised a hand and punched out. Space twisted and a terrifying strength erupted, causing it to crack and shatter. Li Mu didn't move at all, but before the spatial cracks could approach him, they disappeared. It's useless. The Nank and Golden Millet realms are my world. Here, I am the one who makes the rules and controls them. Sect Master Qin, go on your way. He flicked his sleeves, and the entire great Qin Emperor's mausoleum instantly distorted and disappeared, turning into a black vortex. And at the center of the vortex was the tomb that Qin Yu had opened. A powerful devouring force erupted from within, locking onto Qin Yu and wanting to pull him in. Just as Li Mu said, he was now the ruler of this world. Moreover, he had borrowed the phoenix's cultivation. He was simply invincible. Even Qin Yu couldn't resist it. It could be said that Li Mu's plan was very successful, almost perfect. The cooperation between him and Ancestor Li was also flawless, without the slightest flaw. But the tragedy was that Qin Yu wasn't the only one playing chess with Li Mu. The Nank and Golden Millet realms were sent by Little Meaty, and it seemed that she had already seen through Li Mu's background. Thus, when the vortex appeared and the devouring force erupted from the tomb, the special pattern that Taoist Cloudy Mist had shown him automatically appeared in Qin Yu's mind. In an instant, Qin Yu understood everything. My Meaty is indeed so sharp. She had already calculated everything in the past. Qin Yu took a deep breath and stepped forward. Not only did he not resist, but he took the initiative to step into the vortex. Rumble, the entire vortex's rotation, speed, skyrocketed. There was an earth-shattering sound as if a river was being sucked in. Li Mu frowned and a chill appeared in his eyes. Qin Yu's performance was beyond his expectations. He actually stepped into the vortex on his own initiative and fused with the Qin Yu of this world. Did he discover that he had fallen into a hopeless situation and was powerless to resist? So he chose to risk his life and try to seize the initiative in the fusion? Or there were other reasons? Li Mu focused his senses, but found nothing. Because everything was going smoothly, and the fusion of the two Qin was about to be completed. Rumble, above his head, wind surged and thunder roared. But at the same time, a great sun hung high in the sky, and a bright moon appeared. Within the Nank and Golden Millet realms, strange phenomena occurred one after another. Swish! Taoist Cloudy Mist flew outside the imperial tomb, but didn't dare to take another step forward. The world in front of him had already turned into chaos. An extremely terrifying aura was released from it. Imperial Tutor, what happened? Qin Shi Huang followed closely behind. His face was heavy. Taoist Cloudy Mist said, Your Majesty, there is no need to worry. Today is the lucky chance of the great Qin. A smile appeared on his face. Looking up at the wind and thunder and the sun and moon hanging in the sky, Taoist Cloudy Mist murmured, The future of the great Qin is decided. Li Mu's eyes burst with a bright light. The fusion of the two Qin was completed. He took a deep breath and waved his sleeves. Swoosh, the vortex directly dissipated, leaving only darkness. Qin Yu! He shouted in a low voice. A figure walked out of the darkness. It was Qin Yu. The two of them looked at each other. Li Mu's face changed dramatically. Impossible, are you still you? The secret method had been completed. As the ruler of this world, everything was within his perception. There was absolutely nothing that could be hidden from him. At a glance, he could see that Qin Yu had not lost his memory of the outside world. Li Mu, you are not qualified to plot against me. Qin Yu sneered and took a step forward. Boom! The space shook violently and a great wave was set off. Li Mu's face changed dramatically because he found that he had lost the ability to control heaven and earth. Bang! With a loud sound, he was sent flying. In the outside world. Puff! Li Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Blood also oozed out of his eyes and nose. He suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of shock and anger. Phoenix, let's go. But it was already too late. On the other side, Bai Feifei, who was being suppressed by the heaven's sealing talisman, suddenly raised her hand and clenched it. Boom! An invisible force directly suppressed the phoenix. This was the second accident. Li Mu's face paled. He could not understand how Bai Feifei could escape the suppression of the heaven sealing talisman. This was a treasure that the ancient true spirit had obtained through a transaction with heaven and earth to suppress the long-lived species. The phoenix angrily cried, but no matter how it struggled, it could not escape. Qin Yu opened his eyes and raised his hand. The mountain and river sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed down. Sect Master Qin, spare me. I am willing to serve you. The sword did not weaken, and it slashed down. Puff! Li Mu's head was separated from his body. A bit of light of true spirit flew out, and a phantom appeared, glaring at Qin Yu with hatred. But soon, the resentment in the figure's eyes turned into fear. Ah! I am an ancient true spirit, born with heaven and earth. How can you kill me? Who are you? Who the hell are you? Qin Yu remained silent. He coldly watched from the sidelines, watching as the light of true spirit dissipated and then perished. The phoenix was trembling. Its golden eyes were full of hatred, but more than that, there was unconcealable fear. If he could kill an ancient true spirit with a single strike, he could naturally kill it. The so-called nirvana of a phoenix could indeed bring the dead back to life. But Qin, you would not give it the chance. Submit or die. The phoenix struggled for a moment, then lowered its head. Puff! The mountain and river sword instantly pierced through its head. Bai Feifei, don't let it release any aura. Bai Feifei licked her lips. Of course, don't worry, my lord. She instantly pounced, her entire body like a shadow, entering the phoenix's body through Qin Yu's wound. Its enormous body instantly fell to the ground, and its gorgeous feathers instantly lost their luster. Qin Yu closed his eyes. Swoosh! His figure reappeared in the Nank and Golden Millet realms. No, it was a bit inappropriate to call it that now. To be more precise, it was his great Qin.